Good afternoon. All audio and video checks are good from webinar. I'm now going into the background.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Session. My name is Joseph Citro, and I am chair of these proceedings. Roll call vote, please. Excuse me, roll call.
Carlson. Vieira. Maniscalco.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Citro.
Here.
We have fiscal quorum.
Thank you very much. Councilman Vieira is going to be about 30 minutes later. He had a prior engagement that he had to attend to. Our city council attorney is out this evening, and Mr. Morris Massey will be filling in. Mr. Massey, if you could give us the
direction regarding public comment tonight? Yes.
Yes, sir.
This is the July 21st, 2022 evening meeting of the Tampa City Council, held here in City Council chambers in the third floor of Old City Hall, 315 East Kennedy Boulevard in Tampa, Florida. The public is able to attend this meeting in person or view it via cable television on Spectrum channels 640 or Frontier Channel 15, or via the internet at www.tampa.gov/livestream. The public is also able to participate in this meeting either here in person in City Council chambers or virtually by way of Communication Media Technology, or CMT. However, the use of CMT does require pre-registration with the City Clerk's office. Directions for pre-registration are included in the notice of the meeting and on the agenda. Also, if the matter is quasi-judicial, such as a rezoning or a special use public hearing, the members of the public may still participate remotely via CMT, but cell phones and smartphones are not compatible as they will not allow your camera when connected. You must have access to a CMT device such as a tablet or computer equipped with a camera and a microphone that will enable you to be able to be seen and heard by City Council and all other participants in a quasi-judicial matter. Can I please have a motion waiving the City Council standard rules to allow public participation by CMT?
We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed? Thank you. Is that all, Mr. Massey?
The only other thing I'd mention, I think there's a walk-on motion.
Yeah, I was going to take care of that
Okay.
when we went through the agenda. Ms. Wells, are we going through the agenda, or is another part of legal going to? Thank you.
Good evening, Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. I do have a few items to clean up before you tonight off the agenda. Item number 3 is AB 22132. The petition was not properly noticed. Can you please remove this item from the agenda?
Motion by Councilman Maniscalco to remove file number AB 221-32, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
The next item is item number 5, REZ 2228. The applicant is requesting a continuance to be heard at the August 18th, 2022 public hearing at 5:01 p.m.
Move to continue item 5 REZ-22-28 to August 18th, 2022.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed?
And
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And the last item is item number 9, REZ 2250. The petition was also not properly noticed. Can you
Move
please
to
remove?
remove item number 9 REZ-22-50.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? All right, if it's the pleasure of council, I would like to take on this walk-on agenda item first, if we may.
Second.
We have a motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Good evening, Rebecca Johns, City Attorney's Office. Last Thursday, you entered a resolution setting public hearings to hear the development agreement for the Gas Works project. That resolution included a public notice that had not had the square footage and the acreage updated for the project. So we just need to enter a new resolution that just updates that square footage and acreage for the project. I walked it on because due to timing and public notice requirements, the hearing's scheduled for August 4th.
So moved to substitute. And that's resolution 2022-587.
That's correct.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Goods. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Is there any opposed?
Thank you.
You are welcome. At this time, I'm sorry. Is that?
I'm for item 1. Go ahead.
Okay.
Move to open items 1 through 9.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. At this time, all that are going to be giving evidence, would you please rise to be sworn in? All that are going to be giving evidence. Thank you very much. If you could, please make sure that your cell phones are on silent. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and Council. LaShawn Dock, Development Coordination. And Council, the first item on this evening's agenda is REZ 2187. This is an area rezoning. I want to show you on the camera just the area contained within this request, just because of the size of the request. So the request is to rezone the property from PDA, CI, Commercial Intensive, R01 Residential Office, RS60 Residential Single Family, CG Commercial General, RM24 Residential Multifamily to PDA. So the area under this request is outlined, has the green shading. To orient you, this is North Boulevard, this is Ross to the north, this is Highland Avenue, and then this is Tampa Street. So this request currently has the zoning of PDA, central to the site. The request before you tonight is to bring in this parcel, identified as tract 1B on the site plan, this parcel, which is identified as tract 1C, and then this parcel, tract 3. The rest of the property is already zoned PDA. So what I'll do now is turn it over to Danny with the Planning Commission, and then I'll come back and give my report. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. This is Danny Collins with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our first case is within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically within the Tampa Heights Urban Village, and it's shown here on our vision map. Subject site is within the coastal hazard area, and portions of the site are within the Level A evacuation zone. Transit services provided both along North Tampa Street and North Boulevard. Heart routes 1, 6, and 7 connect the subject site to downtown Tampa, Marion Transit Center, Hillsborough County Community College, the university area, and also the Net Park Transfer Center. Here's an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. As LaShawn noted, the subject site is just north of the Hillsborough River, and it's within the Tampa Heights neighborhood. This is Armature Works here on our locational map. The surrounding area contains a mixture of uses. Commercial uses are generally found to the east of the subject site along North Tampa Street, while residential uses are located predominantly to the west and north of the subject site. The Pearl Apartment mixed-use development is to the north of the subject site. The subject site is recognized under four future land use designations. A majority of the subject site is recognized under the RMU 100 designation. Approximately 14.75 acres are recognized under the residential 35 designation, and 1.46 acres are recognized under the CC 35 designation. The remaining portions of the site are recognized under the ROS designation, and that is shown here on our map. The applicant is utilizing land use policy 5.1.6 as noted on the site plan to blend the density and intensity throughout the entire site. The surrounding area is urban in character with RMU 100 and CC 35 designated parcels to the south and east of the subject site, and R35 and R10 designated parcels to the north of the site. There is also an R10 neighborhood generally west and northwest of the subject site. The applicant is requesting approval through this rezoning petition to add an additional parcel that was previously approved in rezoning 18-119. Changes include adding additional square footage to the general office use and an additional 30,000 square foot commercial retail, a change in the number of allowable hotel rooms, and an increase in allowable square footage for the recreation facility commercial use. The proposed additional uses will continue to provide for a mixed-use development pattern as encouraged through the comprehensive plan policies. The proposed plan development alternative district also contains design guidelines providing for an urban-style development with buildings placed close to the public sidewalk, activated ground floor uses, and structured parking. The comprehensive plan is supportive of a design pattern that promotes walking and transit uses, which is supported by this plan. The PDA also includes 2,650 square feet of residential development, which is consistent with the compact city form strategy of the comprehensive plan. Overall, the proposed PDA will complement the existing development found on site and is compatible and consistent with the long-range development pattern encouraged on this portion of the Tampa Heights neighborhood and through the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Council. LaShawn Dock again with Development Coordination. And Council, Danny has presented to you the information as far as the proximity and location of the site. So the request before you is a request for a PDA, and just to give council a brief overview, a PDA, if you may recall, is a plan which will be provided to you which outlines the boundary of the project area. And typically, in this case, it is a phased development. There is an entitlements table which is included as a part of the site plan package. That entitlements table determines the entitlements allowed and the square footage is allowed for each use requested. So as the development comes in for phase development, they would submit for incremental site plan review. At the time of review, it must be consistent with the overall PDA as approved by council. And so on this particular request, the property has the PDA zoning on the property. Just to show the zoning map again. The PDA, and then the areas that are added, which is tract 1B, tract 1C, and tract 3, total approximately 4.7 acres. So this request would add that 4.7 acres to what exists for a total of approximately 53 acres, not 1,000 acres, I'm sorry. And what I wanted to do was to provide you with the site plan, just to show you the tracts as they are identified on the plan. So this is the boundary, this is North Boulevard, this is Palm, which runs through the site, this is Tampa Street, and so this is the west piece, which is tract 1B, and then that's tract 1C at Highland, which is at the roundabout on the northwest corner, and then that's tract 3 on the east side of Tampa. Danny talked a little bit about the entitlements on the property, so I just want to show you just what the difference is. Their current approval, which was granted in 2018, allows for the uses of multifamily, general office, marina, retail, hotel, theater, and commercial recreational facility. So what I provided is the current approval from 2018, and then the data for what's proposed, and then the difference in the units. So in some cases, for the multifamily, there's an increase in units, but you'll see that general office is decreased, along with the retail component. And then in some, there's no change proposed, but there's still permitted uses. So there are no additional uses added to this request. So the Heights Community Design Standards runs with this rezoning, and this was updated along with the PDA. So any development that is submitted must comply with those standards. There, on page 3 of the staff report, there is a table which outlines the maximum building heights and also the yards for each phase of development. And what I like to do is go ahead and show you the aerial of the site. You can see there's RM16 zoning north of the site. So this is North Boulevard, this is Ross, this is Ola, Highland, and then this is Tampa Street. So this is the other parcel on Highland, this is the parcel east of Tampa Street. So you can see along Tampa Street is predominantly commercial zoning with CG and CI. You have your RM24 to the north, and your residential single family, the RS60 to the west, and the river is to the south. And some of the photos, I'll just zoom in a little. So this is from the North Boulevard Bridge, looking over at tract 2 with the pearl in the background. This is the south end. That's another view of the site. And then we'll start west and make our way over to the north and go over east. So this is the west end of the site. This is on Cruisacade. This is on Ross if you're looking south. And then this is tract 1B. That's another view of the west end of the site. And that's also the west end of the site. This is located west of the site. This is residential single family on Ridgewood. This is north of the site. I have a couple of pictures north as we work our way east. These are residential homes located there. This is more central to the site. This is tract 2. Looking south. Here's a view of Armature Works, part of tract 2. And this is another end as we're heading east on the site. This is the site which is identified as tract 1C. So this is one of the additional sites added. That's at Highland and Palm. This is tract 3, which is on the east side of Tampa Street. And that's if you're looking east. And this is the south end of the site. In another view, if you're looking west at the bridge. And the development review and compliance staff has reviewed the petition. We find the request inconsistent. There is a finding from Natural Resources, which is contained within your staff report. We have also here, just to speak on the BLC and their finding. Dennis Fernandez is here. He is Historic Preservation Manager. So I'm going to turn it over to Dennis in just a second for him to review the BLC findings, and then we'll turn it over to Erin Mayer. She's our forester examiner, and she will review with you the trees that are mostly located on the west side of the parcel on that tract 1B and discuss that with you. If council grants the request and approves the application, there are revisions required between first and second reading, and I have a revision sheet also included. So I'm going to turn it over to Dennis.
Good evening, council members. Dennis Fernandez, Architects Review and Historic Preservation Manager. As LaShawn did mention, the portion of the PDA on the easternmost part of the site plan is located in the Tampa Heights Local Historic District. You see the subject property located in this green box. It's just at the edge of the historic district. The site, referred to as tract 3 on the site plan from an aerial view, is adjacent to 2 historic structures. That would be the Tampa Free Library and the Giant Oil Building. This is, of course, the Tampa Free Library, located on 7th Avenue. And then the Giant Oil Building, which is located on Franklin Street. At its meeting of July the 11th, 2022, the ARC voted to recommend approval of the site plan and PDA as presented at the public hearing. There were some conditions on that. First condition was that waiver number 73 be stricken from the site plan. That waiver did request to delegate the architecture review component of the process to the staff instead of the ARC commission itself, which is contradictory to the language of the code. The code does require that new construction of this scope does be reviewed before the ARC at a public hearing. The second waiver is a little bit more complex. I have a visual to assist with that. The ARC did motion that the maximum height of the new structure not exceed 45 feet from the adjacent corners of the historic structures. So that would be, they were seeking to have some separation between the back of the free library and the side of the free library and the back of the Giant Oil Building. So they did request that this section identified in blue on this exhibit is at 45 feet. And they then did specify that the rest of the structure not exceed 86 feet. So that would be the remainder of the site not exceed 86 feet. And that motion was approved by the board by a vote of 5-1. I believe the agent's going to be discussing those conditions and how they tend to either comply with them or provide an alternative. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, hi council, good evening. I'm Erin Mayer. I am with Development Coordination. I have been sworn. And I am a forester examiner with Natural Resources, and I have reviewed the site plan for Natural Resources reasonings. I'm gonna show you an overview of the site. Let's see, using Dark Moss's arborist survey. So the applicant, Natural Resources, was inconsistent based on the number of grand trees that were proposed to be removed, which was 6 non-hazardous grand trees. You see the proposed removals in the red X's on the site plan. And just to orient you, looking at, this is tract 1B. This is west of North Boulevard. So we're looking at just this tract with these trees. You'll see with the green little cloud looking icons, those are the trees that are proposed to be retained. Up here to the northeastern corner, you have the grove of trees. That's like a bunch of grand trees in one little clump that the applicant is proposing. In addition, Natural Resources believes that 3 additional grand trees could be saved based on their condition and based on their location on the site and the fact that this is a vacant site. So you can see those in the purple circles. Those are the 3 trees. They're tree number 5, number 9, and number 14. And I'm just gonna go through each one of these trees. I'll show you a picture, explain a little bit about them, and show you on the map where they're located. So this is tree number 5. This is a 32-inch diameter at breast height live oak. The tree rating is a B6. And let me just tell you what a rating is. A rating is, the city uses the Matheny and Clark evaluation. So the letters can range from A through F. A meaning there are no apparent problems, F being the tree is dead. So the numbers can range from a 3 through a 12, 12 being much worse in terms of failure potential, size of defective part, and the target rating. So this is tree number 5. It's a live oak rated B6, so a very good rating. And 19 debits means that the tree is worth 19 2.5-inch caliber trees, according to our tree table calculations, which is based on crown spread, species rating, and condition rating. This is looking south down Cruisacade, and you can see the tree right here on the right. And then again, this is tree 5. That's the tree I just showed you. We believe this tree could be preserved based on its proximal location to the grove of trees that are already being preserved for this project. Tree number 9 is right here. Tree number 9 is a 40-inch diameter at breast height live oak. Tree is rated B4, and it is worth 16 trees, mitigation trees. This is looking west from Cruisacade, so you would be standing facing the tree. And again, given this tree's condition and its location right here and the fact that this is a vacant site, we believe this tree could be preserved. And the last tree is tree number 14, which is right here. This is a 54-inch diameter at breast height live oak, rated B4, and it is worth almost 40 mitigation trees. This is looking south down Cruisacade, and the tree is just to the west of Cruisacade Place. So trees that are much larger provide many more benefits to the city as a whole, and it is our belief that additional trees could be preserved. Thank you, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any questions? Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I don't need exacts, but of the 3 trees that you're asking to be retained, what is the average age of those trees?
Well, size is not necessarily,
I'm just asking,
Okay.
what is the average age of those trees?
I mean, 75 years to maybe 100 years old potentially, I would
Okay.
guess.
And what is the average age expectancy of those trees?
Live oaks could live to be up to 200 years.
So if all 3 of these trees were to be removed and the mitigation was paid by approximately how many trees for all 3?
For all 3, I think that was around 55, 60 trees.
75, 60 trees. So in 20 years from now, which is coming toward the end of their life expectancy, we could have 70 very strong, tall.
Yes, I mean, that is, yeah, replacement trees.
I'm just weighing things out. That's all.
That's understandable.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Councilman Miranda.
One other question, if I may, one question, please. The chairman asked some questions, and I understand the conversation, I hope, but out of all trees that are planted, not only in this site, that are replaced by X number of trees to equal the size of the tree, when you plant them, what's the ratio of survival?
Of survival. I mean, typically.
I think we have to know something.
I can tell you street trees usually survive around, they have a pretty high non-survival rate.
In other words, if we plant 20 trees, do 10 survive, or 20, or 18,
Yes.
or 60? I don't know which one.
Yeah, probably 10.
Or
But if,
50%?
yeah. I mean, but these trees are under guarantee and they will have to be,
I understand.
replaced.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions? Thank you. Before, I'm going to go a little, Ms. Doc, there is plenty of people out in the viewing audience that has heard us say over and over again, PD, 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 and this is probably the first time that they're hearing PDA. And of course, this is not a public display of affection. This is something different. Can you briefly explain the difference for our viewing audience?
Absolutely. LaShawn, Doc Development Coordination, and thank you so much for that question. Yes, a PDA is a plan development alternative versus a PD, which is a plan development. So with a PD, you have a site plan. It is a site plan controlled district. With the PD, you would see typically your building footprints, you see the curb cuts, you're gonna see your parking placement, you would have elevations provided, you can see the site as it will exist prior to permitting at that phase. A PDA, and typically, let me take a step back, with a PD, it's a smaller scale project, maybe it's one complete phase for development. A PDA is a larger scale project, 20 acres or more is what is required in the code, typically to have a PDA, a plan development alternative. And because it is a larger project, it is a phased development. So you will not see things like building footprint, you won't see the curb cuts, you won't see the placement of the parking spaces, the landscaping, and it is a commitment as a part of that overall project boundary identified through that PDA to meet the code requirements, unless they are waived through that PDA. So it is a phased development.
Thank you for that lovely explanation.
Absolutely.
Petitioner.
Good evening, Council. My name is Catherine Coyle. I'm with Urban Planning Innovations. We're located at 5312 North Swanee Avenue, and I have been sworn. I do have just the layouts. This is sheet 2 of the 5-page site plan, and it's purely for reference. Ms. Doc coincidentally had one that had yellow also, and I happened to highlight it in yellow. It's just to give you reference to the pieces that are being added to the existing zoning. For reference, once again, this is the Heights PDA. One additional thing I would add specifically to this one is there is a development agreement, there's a community development district, there's layers of additional approvals and documents that control what happens on this property, not just the plan development alternative. That grants the entitlements and sets out the design standards and conditions. There's a whole set of other things that go along with this property. adding tract 1B, 1C, and 3, approximately 5 acres of land, like Ms. Doc mentioned. I'm sure you all are familiar with this development. It was originally zoned in 2006, and then under a previous developer, never actually developed. 2013 it came back, 2018, and now this one. This is a view looking at the side of the Armature Works with the public space. This is artist rendering perspective of the buildings looking northeast from the river. It's the Armature Works, retail center. This is an aerial looking south towards downtown. This is the new office block that should be breaking ground later this year in this particular location. Just for point of reference, as this is we consider this a minor modification to the 2013 and with the update in 2018. So far, 70,000 square feet in Armature Works is an adaptive reuse with all of the restaurants and retail uses that you've seen there. Heights Union Building, 300,000 square foot office, it's 100% occupied, and those were all brand new jobs to this area with Pfizer World Support Center and Axogen, which is biomed. The Pearl Mixed Use Development, mixed use project on the north end at Ross, it's 314 luxury apartments, 28,500 square feet of neighborhood retail, including a Tampa General Medical Center, small one. Regional garage with 1,469 cars, which service the whole area, and you probably noticed that there is a new Sprouts Farmers Market that opened as well to bring groceries into the area, and various other uses that are added. Ms. Doc did a wonderful job going through the entitlements changes, and you can see that some went up and some went down. It's just a reconfiguring as the project grows and the economy changes. It's looking at what new uses are actually needed in the market. And the office uses in this particular one are actually needed, with them being at 100%. I would like to get to the ARC piece of it. This is the project, this is the property, track 3. This is Oak, and this is the property with the giant oil building. This is the alley here, the oil building, and this is the extension of the free library. This is just another view, looking southeast. Mr. Fernandez did go through the conditions. We agree of striking note 73 for the waiver. We're happy to go back to the ARC. Happy might be a strong word, but I'll say it. As far as the condition with the step down and the separation, what we are proposing, going back and looking at the site, and I want council to keep in mind that site is very small. It's proposed for a hotel, and it is only a 16,000 square foot parcel, which is very small for commercial standards. And it does have to flow and function as a hotel in that particular location. We've gone back and looked at the spaces within and the function of the building, and we can agree to, as the ARC said, 86 feet maximum height. We can actually reduce that down to 76 overall, so we'd be taking 10 feet off. And then the step down, they mentioned at a 45-foot height for this area here, looking at the back of this building with the AC units and the fire escapes. What we can do is, as opposed to putting it at 45 feet, we can reduce it to 36 feet, and then keep that step back from the extension of the free library on the south side of the alley, 36 feet in. So we're getting very specific, but we're also reducing the amount that the ARC actually said, and then increase the south side alley minimum setback from 3 to 13. 3 is what's in the table, and we can go to 13 feet where that smaller extension starts. And then we'll stick at 36 feet to 36-foot separation from the back of the free library. And then instead of going to 86, we would go to 76. So we respectfully request that that condition be replaced with what the ARC recommended. The other conditions that staff noted in the site plan changes between first and second reading, we're in agreement to, specifically with the grand trees in question. And Mr. Pederico with Dark Moss is actually present if you have any specific questions about the condition of those particular trees. He actually did the rating on them, but just to give council another perspective, Ms. Mayor mentioned, this is Ross, this is Cruzacade. These are the three trees really in question, 5, 9, and 14. You can see that the Cruzacade right-of-way, these trees, 5 and 14 are actually hugging it, and 9 is set in just a little bit. I would like to show you, even though the condition rating is in the good range with what a B, this is 14 in particular. You can see the grade change here because it starts to slope up to the actual bridge. Across this area between the sidewalk coming in, and keep in mind that a big portion of this is actually a flood zone, so we have to raise the elevation for the minimum floor. This grade is going to change approximately 4 feet just to be able to do the buildings. So when you bring that 4 feet in, there is going to be an issue with this particular tree. I would also like to show you how they're sitting. They're not just growing in a field, there actually is pavement next to them. So contour-wise, this is the roundabout, and the trees are here, here, and here. And you can see they're right along this pavement, these two, and this one's set in just a little bit. But these are 1-foot contours coming down. It's approximately, on average, about 4-foot change for these 3 trees as they're going to be impacted. We would respectfully request that the waiver be granted, given the conditions of the site and the grade change that's going to happen. We believe we meet reasonable reconfiguration criteria, and we believe it's in your ability to grant that waiver. Finally, we did, you should have received letters of support from the 2 registered neighborhood associations. And regarding the concerns that were noted in the Ridgewood Estates, or Ridgewood Heights, Tampa Heights first and foremost, it was I would say pretty enthusiastic support. They did note the issue with the crosswalk and concern about pedestrian safety going back and forth between the garage and the hotel on Tampa Street. We would like to note, and staff actually provided this to us as well, they have already started the borings for the posts for the crosswalk. The signalized crosswalk should be actually ready to go within 6 months. The hotel won't be built for another year to a year and a half. So it'll be in place before we actually move forward. And as far as Ridgewood Estates, one of the big ones was no commercial access for vehicle access and loading to the local streets, Ross being the one on the north in that particular area. And also making sure that they wanted the Riverwalk to continue. There actually is already, in one of the incremental approvals, the 12-foot multi-use path as it connects, and it goes all the way through up as it's proposed for its terminus and crossing here at Ross. We are providing additional language for an additional 20-foot easement off the west side of North Boulevard for maintenance for transportation of the berm and this area. We believe also the design standards that are actually on the plan limit commercial access to local streets already. Just like on the Ross side of Pearl, how the buildings step down and there's no commercial access to it, that limitation also lands on this property on the side of the west side of Boulevard. So those standards actually meet what the neighborhood wanted. With the exception of the request to consider our stipulation for the ARC step down and setback, and granting the waiver for all of the trees due to the site conditions and future development. We're in agreement with the remaining changes that staff would like between first and second reading, and we respectfully request your approval.
Councilman Maniscalco.
If this is to be approved tonight on first reading, if it's approved, do you have to come back for that hotel to us, or?
It goes to the ARC for approval. They control the design based on the Tampa Heights Historic Design Standards.
Okay, because I saw this letter that you put on the overhead from Tampa Heights Civic Association about the design compatibility to the rest of, if the design of the hotel, proposed hotel, will complement the adjacent buildings, as you see, are all brick. And obviously, I know one is at least 100+ years old and the other one I don't know, but, so it still would have to go to the ARC for the
Correct.
design? Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you, Chairman. Ms. Coyle, thank you very much for your fine presentation. On trees 5, 9, and 14, I just want to get my bearings straight. Was it there at one time some city facilities that the city was either leasing or working out of in that proximity?
I believe the old THAP building was there.
Which one?
THAP, I think it was THAP.
I think that was it.
Yeah,
I wasn't
it was
sure.
a long time ago.
Yeah, I think,
Yes.
and how close were the trees to those buildings? Those buildings aren't there anymore.
Correct, it was in this particular area.
So the trees survived that? And there was also at one time, if I recall, since I'm one of them weird guys that never go home the same way, I go different ways to find out what the hell's going on, or try to anyway. And I saw some, like it wasn't garbage of any kind, but I saw some construction material, big pipes at one time, high, 10, 12 feet high of some type of material used to fix the roads and whatever. And I believe this is a property where it was at, I'm not sure.
You are correct, actually. It's actually on the aerial. The aerial, when the satellite went over, they happened to catch some of that
I don't know, I'm
activity.
just,
Yeah, this is Ross, this is Boulevard. This is where that activity was. They were doing major stormwater
Yeah.
project.
I just want to make sure that my eyes still remember what my brain
No, you are
recorded.
absolutely correct,
Thank you.
as usual.
No, I'm not saying usually, no.
Any other questions for the applicant? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to make any public comments
Thank
on this
you.
agenda item? Seeing none, Ms. Strohmeyer, are you there with us? She's not on. Okay. Pardon? And, nope, that's it. Well, Ms. Coyle, do you have any rebuttal? Surely.
The height difference, if I remember, 86 to 76, what are you all losing by doing that? I'm wondering, maybe staff can answer too. Is this besides the ARC, is this something that the community demanded? It seems like it's a waste to artificially make the building smaller in that space.
There was nothing specific in the letter from the neighborhood associations. They just wanted compatibility with the historic buildings, which we have to go through the ARC. My client felt that it was a concession essentially in order to get the step back more precise to fit the building on the site. He felt that coming down to 76 probably would be a good
So you're okay with it?
goodwill essentially.
Okay.
He's not opposed to the 86.
I just
so
know
he can make it work.
we have pushback from urban planners in the community who want us to not artificially reduce density if we don't have to. So any other comments from staff about that before we go to rebuttal?
Yes, LaShawn, Dock Development Coordination. That was a request, as Catherine has stated, that was made by the developer and the applicant on their own. Staff
Okay.
did not request them to lower the height.
But ARC requested it?
ARC had their recommendation, which is included as a part of the staff report, and then the applicant offered to do additional reductions in the height on their
Okay.
own.
If you guys are okay with it.
And council, if I may, just for the record, there is a revised revision sheet. So the changes that are mentioned, as far as the height, has been modified on the revision sheet. And the waivers are listed, also on the revision sheet as stated by the applicant, so I will provide that for the record. Thank you.
Ms. Coyle, there was no rebuttal, then I take it?
No, sir.
Thank you very much. Motion to close from Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goode. All in favor? Aye. Councilman Carlson.
Yes, sir, I'd like to move file number RZ 2187, formerly known as PH 22-75320. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. Ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to an area rezoning generally known as the Tampa Heights Riverfront Development, the general location of which is south of Ross Avenue, north of the Hillsborough River, west of Franklin Street and Highland Avenue, and east of the Hillsborough River and North Ridgewood Avenue in the City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in Section 1 from Zoning District Classification PDA, Plan Development Alternative, RO1 Residential Office, CI Commercial Intensive, CG Commercial General, RM24 Residential Multifamily, and RS60 Residential Single Family to Zoning District Classification PDA, Plan Development Alternative, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing for severability, providing effective date, including the revision sheet and the changes between first and second readings.
Second.
And that's including waivers also.
Yes.
We have a motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any discussion? Councilwoman Hurtak.
Does this include keeping those 3 trees?
I think it includes taking them out.
Yeah.
I think that we should be at least able to keep tree 5 and 14.
If I may, that's why I asked those questions on the trees regarding, I wasn't exactly clear as to why they have to be removed, and I wanted to make sure that my memory and my eyesight was still correct, because those things were on and off, and when you have something in the property, you move it somewhere else, your senses of being where we're at is not exactly 100%. So I just wanted to make sure that those are the trees that I'm looking at. In fact, when you talk about trees, although we try to say we have so many trees going and so many are going to survive, but the problem is, and I'm not talking specific about this this development right now, but on this part of it, but we don't really know what survives, because I don't know if we have anybody to go out to recheck and check every 3 months or 5 months. Maybe we can have some individuals that really are interested in doing something for the city to go out and be our ice and our checkers. I don't think we check. I don't believe we do. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wronger before. How do you like that? But it's something that I think we have to do to make sure that what we say is done, and not that there's anything going on. I just want, I have some sayings from the racetrack that says, trust, but verify. And we've been trusting, but we've been doing very little verifying. So that's what I'd like to see in the future, and I'll bring that up at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just sad to lose the trees, but okay, thank you.
Okay, motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Roll call vote.
Miranda,
No.
Hurtak,
No.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods, Vieira,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Miranda and Hurtak voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on August 4th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 2, file number SU2-2203. Ms. Barnes.
Good evening, Council. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 2 is SU2-2203. The application is for a special use 2 for a medical office for a property in an RO1 zoning, residential office zoning district. And the property is located at 3606 West Swan Avenue. I'll turn over the presentation to the Planning Commission after theirs. I'll present mine.
Good evening, council. My name is Emily Phelan. I'm with the Planning Commission. I've been sworn. The subject site is located within the South Tampa Planning District and more specifically the Gulfview neighborhood. The closest transit stop is located within a quarter-mile northeast of the subject site at the intersection of South Sterling Avenue and Henderson Boulevard. Swan Avenue Circle Park is the closest recreational facility located 1 mile west of the subject site, and the site is within a level C evacuation zone. Here is an aerial of the subject site. It's right here outlined in purple and also hatched. The surrounding development pattern is predominantly light commercial uses with a transition to residential uses 1 block to the north and also 1 block to the east of the subject site. The subject site is within proximity to Henderson Boulevard to the east, which is a major commercial corridor in Henderson Boulevard right here. Here is a map of the adopted future land use. The subject site has residential 20 designation. Again, the subject site's right here. The surrounding area has CMU 35, which is the purple color, to the east along Henderson Boulevard, and further to the west along Swan Avenue, which is over here. R20 is adjacent to this site, and R10 is 1 block north of the site. The applicant is seeking approval to allow medical offices in an existing 1,846 square foot building at a 0.19 FAR. The proposed FAR is below the 0.5 FAR allowed under the residential 20 designation. Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found the medical uses to be compatible and comparable to the surrounding area. The site plan shows defined pedestrian access from West Swan Avenue to the front entrance of the facility, which is consistent with comprehensive plan policies related to pedestrian safety. In conclusion, the proposed development is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the residential 20 future land use category and is comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Again, the property is seeking a special use 2 for a medical office. This is required in the RO1 Residential Office Zoning District for 3606 West Swan Avenue. Property north, south, and east of the subject site are zoned RO1, and the majority around the site is zoned developed with office uses, and specifically medical office uses. So shown here is the subject site. This is Swan Avenue in Henderson. The applicant is planning on using an existing building shown here on the site plan. Shown here is the subject site with the building developed. It's approximately 1,847 square feet in size. Directly across the street is a dental office and some other office uses as well. Staff did review the section 27-129 standards as well as section 27-132, and the site does meet the requirements and no waivers are being requested. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Do we have the petitioner?
Good evening, council members. My name is Clay Matthews. I'm an attorney from Smoker Matthews. We are located at 100 South Ashley Drive, Suite 1490. That's Tampa, Florida 33602, and I have been sworn. We represent Layla Ave LLC, which owns the subject property located at 3606 West Swan Avenue, and we've submitted this special use 2 application on their behalf to use the property as a medical office. I was going to go over some brief background facts, but Ms. Barnes covered all those, and the staff covered them as well. So I'll save you all the repetition of those background facts. I'll just note that my client purchased this property at the end of 2021, and prior to that, the property had been used as a law office by Stephen Allen, PA, for what I understand to be approximately about 20 years or so. And again, the property is surrounded by many office uses, including a dental office directly across the street. Our client's proposed medical office, he intends to operate it from 9 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and anticipates about 8 to 10 patients a day at most. He intends on using the existing structure, but will add some additional features such as a sidewalk, additional parking, ADA ramp, refuse container, et cetera. All these items are noted on the site plan, and our expert land use planner, Bruce Landis, will touch on those in a little more detail. We will submit that we've submitted competent substantial evidence proving entitlement to the special use 2. We've just submitted that packet of evidence containing the documents, which include the site plan and also the staff report. And we will also introduce Mr. Landis here to testify on behalf of the applicant regarding the proposed medical office use, as well as demonstrating compliance to all of the criteria for a special use 2. But before I turn it over to him, I'll just state for the record that we submit that the special use meets all the special use criteria under section 27129 of the City of Tampa Land Development Code. And I'll just note them for the record that those criteria are: 1, the use will ensure the public health, safety, and general welfare if located where proposed and developed and operated according to the plan as submitted. 2, that the use, which is listed as a special use in the district in which it is proposed to be located, complies with all required regulations and standards, including the provisions of Articles 2, 6, and 9 of this chapter, unless greater or different regulations are contained in the individual standards for that special use. 3, that the use is compatible and contiguous with the surrounding property or the use is a public necessity. 4, the use is in conformity with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. And 5, the use will not establish a precedent of or encourage more intensive or incompatible uses in the surrounding area. So with that, I'll turn it over to our expert land use planner and engineer, Mr. Landis, who will provide expert testimony as to the proposed use and compliance with this criteria.
Just to be clear, you're entering this in as evidence to go into the record?
Yes,
These
please.
2 documents you handed us?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Good evening, Chairman, council members, city staff. For the record, my name is Bruce Landis. I am at 3810 Northdale Boulevard, Tampa, Florida 33624, and I have been sworn. As you've heard from staff and from the applicant's representative, this is an existing structure which has been operating as a professional building office for nearly 20 years. The applicant and owner desires to change the use to a medical office, and as such, according to the code, the city code, that requires a special use. The property is about 10,000 square foot property, and as you heard, 1,800 square foot structure. Very little is being planned to be changed on the property itself. As the site plan illustrates, and as part of the records, just some strips of additional concrete to widen a few spots, but largely the property as it exists today will be what is the supporting structure. What I would like to do very quickly is to outline our compliance with the special use criteria, and I'll just, for convenience, reference those instead of rereading them, what Mr. Matthews just did. So the first special use criteria is to ensure the public health, safety, and general welfare. This use is stipulated to be a medical use. It's in an area surrounding of nearby and adjoining medical uses, so it's certainly compatible with the trend, the existing use in the area and the trend in that general area. Criteria number 2, the use, it complies with required regulations and standards. We've been working very carefully with city staff in review of our site plan. We have the required number of parking spaces and the buffering and the various aspects that are in your criteria for development. Item number 3, criteria number 3, the use is compatible and contiguous. I touched on that with the surrounding property, and as your staff outlined, we have medical offices on both sides and surrounding, and then commercial in the back in the area. Number 4, the use in conformity with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan. You heard testimony from Planning Commission staff as to its compatibility. It is in residential 20 category. The proposed medical office, as I stated, is 1,800 square feet. The size of the property is 10,000 square feet. The FAR is well below the comp plan max of 0.5. Ours is actually existing 0.19. Some of the key characteristics for compatibility is the architectural style will remain the same and continue to have the general conformity with the rest of the area. And we're providing our part of the comprehensive multimodal transportation network, providing a sidewalk in the front of our property within the right-of-way of Swan Avenue and providing an accessible route to the entrance of the building and an accessible handicap ramp. The street canopy provides for shades. We have a surplus number of trees on our property and along the frontage, and so we will be preserving the entirety of those trees with the exception of the few that we have to remove for the additional widening that of the paving that the staff requested and that we have shown on the site plan. And the building heights, the comprehensive plan states that they are to be 3 stories or less. Our building is primarily 1 story and 1 short section of 2-story. And finally, the criteria number 5, the use will not establish a precedent or encourage more intensive or incompatible uses in the area as I identified. It is in keeping with the RO1 allowable uses and also the allowable uses within the comprehensive plan. And then I do want to wrap up with touch on 7 criteria that are within section 27-129A. First is ingress egress. We have more than adequate access to Swan Avenue directly. We have the code required parking provided, and we have extensive landscaping and screening the surrounding uses. Even though they're compatible, we're still complying with the required screening. Refuse and service areas, we are screening the garbage cans in the area, and like all the other properties along that section of Swan Avenue, we'll be rolling the trash out to the curb for pickup. You know, somewhat of a legacy from the original residential character of the area. Lighting, we propose no additional changes to the lighting. Utilities, we're not proposing any more intense use of the property. And drainage, there are no impacts. And then finally, number 7, control potentially adverse effects generally. This is a low-intensity use, and so it will certainly preserve the character of the neighborhood. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Landis. With that, based on the evidence submitted and the testimony elicited today, we respectfully request that the council approve the special use 2 application, and we are happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions for the petitioner? Seeing none, is there anyone in chambers that would like to make comment to this agenda item? Is Ms. Strohmeyer on the line?
Second.
Have a motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goose. All in favor? Aye. Councilman Vieira.
Yes, sir. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance approving a special use permit, approving a medical office in R01, a residential office, zoning district in the general vicinity of 3606 West Swan Avenue, City of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described, and Section 1 hereof providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Cedro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on August 25th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, council.
Agenda item number 4, file number REZ 22-26.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 4 is REZ 2226. The request is to rezone property located at 8102 North Temple Circle and 8101 North 39th Street from CG and CN to planned development for residential single-family attached uses. I'll turn over the presentation to Planning Commission, and after their presentation, I'll do mine.
Good evening, Emily Phelan with the Planning Commission. I have been sworn. The subject site is located within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, the Stadium Area neighborhood. The closest transit stop is located within a half-mile north of the subject site on West Martin Luther King Boulevard and North Gomez Avenue. Al Lopez Park is the closest recreational facility located within 1 mile northwest of the subject site, and the site is located within Level E evacuation zone. Here is an aerial.
No, that's not right.
No.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, we're on
Number
number
4.
4.
Oh,
Al Lopez Park is a long way. When I heard that, I said, I didn't know he moved.
Very nice to see bus stop there for you.
We're all human. We're all human. Don't worry about it.
sorry, I grabbed the wrong report.
You're cool.
That's all right.
All right.
All right.
Just a preview for what.
Restart. Start over.
All right.
I thought it was a TV show that we fooled them.
All right, sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, Emily Phelan, Planning Commission. This is 2226 rezoning. The subject site is located within the University Planning District, and more specifically, the Temple Crest neighborhood. The closest transit stop is located approximately 200 feet southeast of the subject site at the corner of North 40th Street and East Miller Avenue. Temple Crest Park is the closest recreational facility located 2 blocks west of the subject site, and the site is not located within an evacuation zone. Here is an aerial map of the subject site, just right here, outlined in purple. It is located on North Greenwood Avenue and between North 39th Street and North Temple Crest Circle. The surrounding development pattern is predominantly residential with a transition to commercial uses along North 40th Street. Here's the map of the adopted future land use. The subject site has a community mixed-use residential 35 designation right here in pink. The surrounding area has community mixed-use 35 to the north and east of the subject site, and residential 10 to the west and south of the subject site, and then further to the west is Temple Crest Park. The subject site is located within the North 40th Street mixed-use corridor. Within these areas, the comprehensive plan promotes a development pattern that encourages walking and transit through building design and pedestrian amenities. The proposed density of 8 units is under the maximum density that can be considered under the community mixed-use 35 designation. Due to the presence of single-family uses in the surrounding area, Planning Commission staff has determined that the proposed PD zoning is comparable to the development pattern. The proposed request supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to the housing of the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. In conclusion, the proposed development is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the Community Mixed-Use 35 Future Land Use Designation and is comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination, again, REZ 2226. Property is located at 8102 Temple Crest Circle, 8101 North 39th Street. The applicant proposes to rezone the property from CG, Commercial General, and CN, Commercial Neighborhood, to PD for single-family attached uses. Here is an aerial map of the subject site shown here and here. As Emily with the Planning Commission already stated, there's a large number of residentially zoned property in the area with RS 60, 50, and RM 24. These properties are largely developed with single-family dwellings. Specifically, this project is for 8 residential single-family attached units, shown here on the site plan. Proposed maximum building height is 36 feet. The applicant is requesting a waiver to reduce parking from 18 spaces to 16 parking spaces. However, the applicant is saving all the grand trees on site, so therefore Development Coordination found the request consistent. Just continuing along, I'm going to show you the elevations that were provided, as well as pictures of the subject site. Here's another picture. As well as intersection to the south of the site and property north of the site, to just give you an idea of the overall character of the area. Again, staff found the request consistent, and I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions? Petitioner. Agenda item number 4. Do we have anyone online? Milford, Martinez. Mr. Martinez, are you there?
Move to close.
Mr. Martinez, are you there? CMT at its finest.
I know no one's here, but I don't know what the attorney's going to tell us.
We can, let's,
First of all, he wasn't sworn in, he wasn't here.
yes. My suggestion is we move forward to our next agenda item, and then we can come back to them.
I agree.
Back to this, once Mr. Martinez is notified that he is online, we're going to now go to agenda item number 6, file number REZ 22-37.
But is the other lady here, Miss, I know she's a petitioner, but is Olga Hernandez?
We're moving on.
Okay, no problem.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 6 is REZ 2237. The request is to rezone the property located at several addresses on North Nebraska Avenue, as well as several addresses listed in the staff report on East Henderson Avenue, Estelle Street. The request is rezone the property from RM16, CG, YC5 to PD and YC9. I'm going to turn over the report to the Planning Commission. After theirs, I'll conclude my presentation.
Good evening. Danny Collins again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Just for the record, Planning Commission staff submitted a revised report earlier in the week. That report says revised right behind the petition number. Our next case is within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically the Central Park Urban Village. The closest transit stop is adjacent to the subject site at the intersection of East Estelle Street and North Nebraska Avenue. This transit stop is served by Heart Route 400, connecting the subject site to downtown Tampa and the university area. I do want to note that North Nebraska Avenue is a transit emphasis corridor. The subject site is not within an evacuation zone, and the subject site is within the CBD periphery and the Ybor City Local Historic District. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site. Here it's outlined in the purple color. It's just southeast of the intersection, or southwest of the intersection of East Henderson Avenue and North Nebraska Avenue. The surrounding development pattern is predominantly urban in character. This is the GTE Credit Union headquarters, directly to the southwest of the subject site. There are predominantly non-residential uses along North Nebraska Avenue, as well as some multifamily to the south, further south of the subject site, south of K Street. The subject site, as I stated earlier, is within an urban area. It's recognized under the Urban Mixed-Use 60 Future Land Use designation, which generally allows for development up to 60 dwelling units per acre, or up to a 3.25 FAR. The segment of North Nebraska Avenue between East Henderson Avenue and Scott Street contains parcels recognized under the UMU 60 designation. The CMU 35 is directly east of the subject site, generally on the east side of North Nebraska Avenue. And then within a quarter-mile south of the subject site is land recognized under the RMU 100. That's shown here in the magenta color on our map. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. The PD proposes 39 single-family attached units at a 22.29 units per acre, which is well below the density anticipated under the Urban Mixed-Use 60 designation. The subject site is also within a mixed-use corridor as defined by the comprehensive plan. The request addresses many of the policies and many of the mixed-use corridor policies. Public sidewalks are provided along all adjacent public rights-of-way, and internal pedestrian connections are provided so pedestrians can access transit and safely navigate throughout the site. Buildings are also placed close to the public rights-of-way, and a majority of the unit entrances are oriented and connected to the proposed sidewalk on North Nebraska Avenue. The PD proposes a waiver to allow units 1 through 4, 11 through 23, and 27 through 28 to not face a street right-of-way, and that's waiver 4 on the site plan. Because units 1 through 3, 11 through 14, and 27 are not adjacent to the public right-of-way, the entrances cannot orient to a neighborhood sidewalk or street. The applicant has provided internal pedestrian connections that connect the entrances from these units to the sidewalks along the public rights-of-way, meeting the intent of this policy. Likewise, units 4, 15, and 28 are adjacent to a public right-of-way, and the PD proposes pedestrian connections from the entrances to the adjacent public sidewalks. Overall, the Planning Commission staff finds the request meets the overall intent of the mixed-use corridor policies and land use policy 9.2.6. The request supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's growing population. The request will also provide additional housing choices within access to transit and within the Central Park Urban Village. In conclusion, the request will promote a residential development pattern consistent with the Compact City Forum strategy, with increased availability of housing at densities that promote walking and transit use near employment concentrations, residential services, and amenities. The Planning Commission staff requests that the applicant record the Urban Mixed Use 60 designation in a site data table between first and second readings. Based on these considerations, the Planning Commission staff finds the request consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the City of Tampa Comprehensive Plan. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Collins? Thank you.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Again, REZ 2237, request to rezone from RM16, CG, and YC5 to YC9 and planned development for residential single-family attached uses. The applicant is requesting 5 waivers. The subject site contains an area of approximately 1.7 acres, which I'll show you on the overhead map, outlined on this section of East Henderson and Nebraska. Currently, the subject site is used as a parking lot and vacant land. The properties to the north are zoned RM24. To the west is RM16. So there's a variety of residential housing types as well as zoning in the area. Shown here is the subject site. The applicant and this is the site plan provided by the applicant. A maximum building height for the townhomes is 36 feet tall. A total of 65 parking spaces are required and 92 are being provided. Vehicular access is provided from East South Street and East Henderson Avenue. And development review and compliance staff has found the request consistent. Again, I'm going to show you the surrounding area. So this is property south, showing south of the subject site, northeast, west, north, and again, east. I also, there was a revision sheet that was handed out that is amending waiver number 5. So that was handed out to you. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Barnes? Thank you. Petitioner.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Latimer, 1925 East 6th Avenue.
Ms. Latimer.
Sorry?
You've been sworn in.
I have not, sorry.
Anyone else that is in chambers that has not been sworn in, that is going to be giving any type of testimony, please stand to be sworn in.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Latimer, please continue.
Jennifer Latimer, 1925 East 6th Avenue. I am one of the developers on the project. I work for Site Development. We are a local Ybor-based company. We have been in Ybor City for over 10 years now. We're part of the Ybor community, and we're excited about the dynamic evolution that's happening in the district, and we're very excited to be part of it. All of our Ybor projects are unique and have added character to the community. A few of our past projects include extensive renovations to historic bungalows within the historic district, workforce apartments, and a new construction building that has been our headquarters for the last few years. We have developed a brand for this development. It's called Canvas. The Canvas brand stands for freedom of creativity, and we like to highlight the local artists of the neighborhood. We're proud of the local artist community and have developed a brand to pay it homage. We developed this brand by collaborating with a local design team that's based in Ybor City, as well as local artists who will create arts installations for the development. And the industrial style architecture is influenced by Ybor City warehouses that have been converted to artist studios as well as some living spaces. A few of the the benefits of this development is that this project creates the opportunity for homeownership in an area where there is over 1,000, or there will be in the future, over 1,000 for rent units. It's surrounded by a few master plan developments. It improves vacant, unimproved land, adding to the tax basis. And we have coordinated the site plan to retain 4 grand trees that are within the Ybor Historic District. And that concludes my portion of the, sorry, lost my words there. of the presentation, and Mark Bentley, our attorney, will take over from there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, council members. I was gonna say I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I didn't want to offend Mr. Miranda here.
No, I haven't died yet.
No, not you.
I understand. Listen, if you want a comedy show, I'll give you one, sir.
You guys know what I'm saying.
I understand.
All right.
Listen, I'm game.
Well, I haven't offended you.
We
you know.
didn't wake me up, I was barely alive, thank you.
That's encouraging. Where was I? Anyhow,
You're in chambers.
exactly. The rezonings from RM24 to YC5 to PD and also to YC9. And the reason YC9 is because about 2/3 of the subject property is located in the Ybor Historic District. And it's subject to the Barrio Latino design standards, et cetera. And we also, as a part of this process, had to appear before the Barrio and get a recommendation to City Council, which hopefully you received, whether or not the subject rezoning would have an adverse impact on the integrity and character of the historic district. There was a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Barrio to City Council. The project would consist of 39 fee simple townhomes, as you heard, and the density is roughly 22 units per acre. The subject property, the land use designation is UMU 60, so in theory, you could have up to 87 units on the property, and we're proposing 39. This is also what we consider phase 2 of the Canvas project, and you might recall earlier this year, I think it was in the latter part of March, that City Council approved what I call phase 1. If you can look on the overhead, this yellow area is what we're dealing with tonight. It's phase 2, and this is phase 1. City Council approved phase 1, I think, on March 25th, and it was for 40 townhomes. It's almost the same project. As I mentioned, about 2/3 of the project was in the historic district, and also the Barrio Latino staff recommended approval to its board and to City Council. Likewise, you heard Mr. Collins recommend approval from the Planning Commission staff. We also submitted numerous letters of support from stakeholders in the Ybor community, and it's just been nothing but positive feedback. And with respect to the waivers, these are the same waivers we requested and were approved essentially for phase 1. And if you want me to go through that, I will. But we have a finding of consistency from all staffs or all agencies associated with the city, which is kind of a rarity in these days. So that being said, unless you have any questions, I respectfully request council's approval.
Any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone in council chambers? I'm sorry, Councilman Goods.
Is this the project connected to, across from, Tampa Park Plaza?
Pretty much, yeah. By the library too,
Yeah.
little south of it, yeah.
I didn't know that portion of it was Ybor, when I thought that was more Tampa. I could be wrong, okay.
I think it's Henderson, Councilman Goods to the north, and Estelle to the south.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilman Hurtak.
I was not here for that portion of the first portion. Do you have any renderings that you can show?
Of this project?
Yes.
Yeah, staff has them too. Do you have them ready?
Yeah, I have.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. So I do have renderings of the current project as well as that other project to the south that Mr. Bentley was referencing. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Is that the fire one? Here is the project we're dealing with tonight. The allowable height in the district is 45 feet, and these are 36-foot townhomes, 3-story. There's 39 of them. And this elevation is essentially the same as the one, and I could dig it up, but take my word for it, it's essentially the same as phase 1. And it's kind of interesting because the Barrio's role is typically to approve the exterior design. So when it's kind of a challenge when they're presented with the rezoning. They don't, it's kind of unique to them. So it's kind of a quasi review of the exterior design too. So it was more than just kind of a, like kick the tires, yeah, it looks good. They wanted to know, and they reviewed the elevations and, you know, really were very diligent, very thorough about it. Notwithstanding that we have to go back to them again for certificate of appropriateness if the zoning gets approved.
And then I had one more question. The woman who came before you talked about art. Will art be incorporated in this, and if so, how?
I can't really answer that. I don't know. Jenny?
Jennifer Latimer, 1925 East 6th Avenue. Yeah, so we developed the brand canvas around the local neighborhood artists. We wanted the artists to have some freedom to and we haven't worked out details yet since we're still in the planning phases, but we would like a local artist or multiple local artists to maybe install a statue or some artwork on the building. We haven't gotten that far yet, but there will be some local artists or multiple local artists involved in this community.
Thank you. Yes. Why almost, it seems like double the amount of parking necessary?
That's a really good question, because like I said, 2/3 of the project's in the Ybor district, which has a lower ratio than the balance of the city. They only require 1 space per unit, whereas the city, it was 2 plus guest parking. So under this proposal.
Mr. Callahan, if you're online and you are connected to us, please mute yourself. Thank you. Please proceed.
So under this proposal, we were only required, based on these different ratios, to have 65 spaces, more or less. And I think we have 93. So we're over parked. However, if the entire project were in the non-historic district, we would meet code. You know what I'm saying? Right now, we're showing a tremendous surplus of parking, but it's just because of that anomaly that parts in, 1 foot's in the city and 1 foot's in the historic district.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Mr. Bentley, I have one. What is the rooftop height?
36 feet.
The squares and rectangles on top of the roof, are those cosmetics?
Some of those are like parapets that you can go up to a certain height, and it's not included in your height if it's kind of ornamental. But these are just conceptual right now, and we'll have to sort that out with the Barrio Latino Commission. Morris?
Yeah, no, a couple of things. I don't believe they are held to the renderings per se. He is right, especially for the portion that's within the Ybor Historic District. He's going to have to go back before the Barrio for approval of the actual design. Our code does allow for a certain percentage of the roof, for roof structures, for air conditioning, for equipment, that sort of thing, to be placed there and not be counted toward height. So that may be part of it.
Sometimes I just have to ask the question.
But Chairman Citro, I'm
Yes, sir.
sorry, for what it's worth, I had mentioned earlier that the current height allowed for the present zoning is 45 feet, and we're at 36. Okay, thank you.
Sometimes I just have to. Any further questions? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment? Seeing none, is there anyone online?
Yes.
Is this Ms. Strohmeyer? Who's speaking?
Holly.
Okay.
In order to
Is this Ms. Holly?
participate, you need to be
Yes.
visible.
Do you have your camera on?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holly. Please proceed.
And also Jermaine Canty.
My grandmother, in our family.
I'm sorry,
just
ma'am.
Can you hear me?
And ma'am, Ms. Holly, give me 1 second. I apologize. Is
Okay.
Mr. Canty also on the line?
Chair, Mr. Canty is on the line, just in turn.
Okay, Mr. Canty, please, I need both of you to raise your hands so you can be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Ms. Holly, please proceed.
The property just south of what they have shared has been in our family for over 75 years. And I just have some concern in terms of what our family might want to do with the property to make sure we're not boxed in, and how does this affect our property value? So I do have questions as it pertains to that. I know the rezoning would change the character of the neighborhood as well as, you know, the area. So if you can address that in terms of how it would affect our property value, and that we don't get locked in, that we are not able to have a business or do something that I'm sure the Cantys would share with you.
This isn't being zoned for a business?
It's planning development. I'm just saying our personal property. How this planning development is going to affect what we own.
This zoning
which is
does not
just
affect
south
your,
of it.
it would not affect your zoning, ma'am. I mean, it does not affect what your current zoning is for your property.
Which is YC5.
So you still have YC5, and you could develop in a manner consistent with YC5. So that, the property being rezoned next door does not affect your current zoning.
She's talking about also being locked in. I don't.
No, your property zoning is not changing, ma'am.
How it
Okay,
affects your
it's
how it affects your value, that's not really something that is something that we would consider here, and it's not something that the petitioner would have to show. But again, this application affects only the property subject to the application. It does not affect your property, so you would retain your YC5 zoning.
Okay, all right. Canty.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holly. Mr. Canty?
My mom did a very good job, so you guys answered the questions that we were concerned about.
Thank you very much, Mr. Canty.
We appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online?
That concludes registered speakers.
Okay. Again, is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment?
Move to close.
Any rebuttal?
No thanks. Jenny, you all right? Okay. No, thank you, sir.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda. Seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hurtak. I'm coming back to you. Okay.
Yeah, see, I'm unprepared because that was Councilwoman Maniscalco's turn. So I move an ordinance, file number REZ 22-37, on application requesting to rezone property generally located at 1534, 1604, 1608, and 1614 North Nebraska Avenue, 711, 805, and 813 East Henderson Avenue, 1313 East Estelle Street, 1926662.0000 and 1926619.0000 from RM16, CG, and YC5 to PD and YC9, residential, single-family attached.
Second.
And that is including the waivers and the revisions.
Including waivers and revisions.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Miranda. Roll call. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on August 25th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our Madam Clerk has asked if we could take a break. So we'll have 5 minutes.
Is that was in order. Is there anything new?
38.
Sounds good.
I don't even have them, I don't even
The minarets.
Yeah.
And other
It's the
things
guy
that-
beside
This is gonna play City for our first kiss. All right, city council is back in session. Roll call.
Carlson. Vieira. Maniscalco. Hurtak.
Here.
Goods. Miranda.
Here.
And Citro.
We're gonna go back.
And Citro.
Here.
We have a physical
We're going to
quorum.
go back to agenda item number 4, if that's all right with you, Ms. Barnes.
Okay.
Is that Mr. Mumford on the screen?
Mr. Milford.
Oh, I'm sorry, Milford, excuse me. Mr. Milford, could you please raise your hand so you can be sworn in?
Sir, I was sworn in earlier.
And could you please raise your hand so you can, and Mr. Martinez, can you both raise your hands to be sworn in?
Do you
The other
swear?
right hand. The other right hand. There you go.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Barnes, can you briefly run through the things that you have already said?
Sure. I was going to introduce the case and then turn it over to Planning Commission, and then I'll run through.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes.
Item number 4 is RAZ 2226, request to rezone from CG and CN to PD for 8102 North Temple Circle and 8101 North 39th Street, and I'll turn it over to Planning Commission.
Yeah, okay. Emily Phelan, Planning Commission staff, I have been sworn. The subject site's located within the University Planning District, more specifically the Temple Crest neighborhood. The closest transit stop is located approximately 200 feet southeast of the subject site at the corner of North 40th Street and East Miller Avenue. Temple Crest Park is the closest recreational facility, located 2 blocks west of the subject site, and the site is not located within an evacuation zone. Here is an aerial map of the subject site. It is located on North Greenwood Avenue between North 39th Street and North Temple Crest Circle. The surrounding development pattern is predominantly residential with a transition to commercial uses along North 40th Street, and that's the subject site. Oh, that was my aerial. Here's my future land use map. Oh, my maps were messed up, sorry. Here's a map of the adopted future land use. The subject site has a community mixed use designation. It's the pink color. The surrounding area has community mixed use 35 to the north and east of the subject site, and residential 10 to the west and south of the subject site, and this is Temple Crest Park. The subject site is located within the North 40th Street mixed-use corridor. Within these areas, the comprehensive plan promotes a development pattern that encourages walking and transit through building design and pedestrian amenities. The proposed density of 8 units is under the maximum density that can be considered under the community mixed-use 35 designation. Due to the presence of single-family uses in the surrounding area, Planning Commission staff has determined that the proposed plan development is comparable to the development pattern. The proposed request supports many of the policies in the comprehensive plan as it relates to housing the city's population. The Tampa Comprehensive Plan encourages new housing on vacant and underutilized land to ensure that an adequate supply of housing is available to meet the needs of Tampa's present and future populations. In conclusion, the proposed development is consistent with the development pattern anticipated under the Community Mixed Use 35 Future Land Use Designation and is comparable and compatible with the surrounding development pattern. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. I'm just going to speed through this since we already, I already presented before. The request is to rezone the property from CG and CN to planned development for residential single-family attached uses. The project is proposed for exactly 8 residential single-family attached uses. Shown here is the subject site, outlined in red. As shown, there's a mixture of residential uses and zoning in the immediate area. Staff found the request consistent, even though there's a waiver provided to reduce parking. The applicant is saving the grand trees on site. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Milford?
Yes, Dwayne Milford, address is 7720 Polara Drive, Odessa, Florida. And I would like to apologize for what happened earlier while Annie Barnes was presenting our case. We had a lightning strike here that shut everything down. So we were online and did hear that. So I apologize for that. I won't draw this out and take any extra unnecessary time. Just want to point out a few things real quick. As has been mentioned, current property is zoned CN and CG, which would allow some neighborhood commercial uses. But because of the surrounding uses, it doesn't seem that that's a wise use for the property. And of course, residential uses are allowed in the commercial zoning with a S1 type zoning administrator review. But because of the shape of the property, the size of the property, and the locations of grand trees that have been previously mentioned, we have 3 grand trees on the east side of our property, 1 in the middle, and then 1 on the 3 on the west, 1 in the middle, and 1 on the east. And the 1 on the east is actually in the right of way. So 4 on site, 1 in the right of way. And so we met with development coordination staff early on, and they agreed that to do what we want to do and do it the best way, that the PD was the way to go. The future land use would allow more units than we're proposing, but we believe this is the best development considering the neighborhood and the site itself. We do have a letter of support, or an email of support actually, that was submitted to council from the Temple Crest Civic Association. And as Ms. Barnes mentioned, we have the 1 waiver where we would have 2 parking spaces per unit, or 16 spaces being reduced from the 18 required by code. So I'll leave it at that for now, be available to answer questions. Mr. Martinez, who's online also, is part of the development team. He is my client. Either of us can answer questions, but we certainly request your approval and appreciate your time.
Any questions for the petitioner? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comments? Do we have anyone online?
No, we don't.
Second. Motion closed by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Councilman Maniscalco.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance rezoning property in the general vicinity of 8102 North Temple Crest Circle and 8101 North 39th Street in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly described in section 1 from zoning district classification CG Commercial General and CN Commercial Neighborhood to PD Plan Development Residential Single Family Attached, providing an effective date.
Second. We have a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Vieira. Roll call vote.
Miranda.
Yes.
Hurtak.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Dudes.
Yes.
Vieira.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
And Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on August 25th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 7, file number REZ 22-38.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 7 is REZ 2238. The request is to rezone the property located at 3201 West Tampa Bay Boulevard and 4005 Lincoln Avenue from RS50 and PD to PD. I'll turn over the presentation to the Planning Commission.
Emily Phelan with the Planning Commission. I have been sworn. The subject site is located within the Central Tampa Planning District and more specifically the Stadium area neighborhood. The closest transit stop is located within a half a mile north of the subject site on West Martin Luther King Boulevard and North Gomez Avenue. Al Lopez Park is the closest recreational facility located within 1 mile northwest of the subject site, and the site is located within Level E evacuation zone. Here's an aerial map of the subject site. The site's outlined in purple. The surrounding development pattern is a mixture of low-density residential and office uses. An elementary school is located to the west of the subject site, which is here. Here's a map of the adopted future land use. The subject site is within 2 future land use designations, residential 10, which is the orange color, and residential 20, which is the brownish color. The surrounding area has residential 10 to the north and south of the subject site, residential 20 to the west, and public, quasi-public to the east of the subject site, which is the elementary school. The subject site is on the periphery of the neighborhood, and the comprehensive plan encourages single-family attached units to be limited to the periphery of established single-family neighborhoods. The request would allow for 10 single-family attached residential units at an overall density of 10.86 units per acre, which is consistent with the density anticipated under the residential 10 and residential 20 future land use designations. Additionally, the rezoning will provide additional housing on an underutilized parcel. Planning Commission staff finds that the proposed uses and intensity are consistent with the urban development pattern anticipated in this area of the city. This concludes my presentation if you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Again, rezone the property from RS 50 and PD to PD. I'm going to show you an overall or overhead map or aerial of the subject site. So this is the subject site shown here. It has this unusual L or T shape. It's approximately, the site is approximately 0.92 acres in size. The portion along North Lincoln Avenue is developed with a single-family detached home, and then the portion along Tampa Bay Boulevard is developed with a business professional office. There are several residential and school and commercial uses in the general vicinity. However, property north, south, and east of the subject site is zone RS50. The proposed project is for 2 residential single-family attached buildings with a total of 10 residential dwelling units. Shown here, here's the site plan that was provided. Maximum principal building height is 35 feet, and vehicular access is provided from West Tampa Bay Boulevard and North Lincoln Avenue. The applicant is requesting a waiver to allow units 2 through 10 to have ground floor entrances, front doors not face a street right-of-way. However, staff did review section 27, 136, I believe it is. Yes, 136, and found that the unusual shape of the parcel warrants this waiver request, and it would be difficult to develop under a standard Euclidean zoning district. So staff found the request consistent, and I'm available. Oh, let me show you some pictures of the site. Shown here is the professional business office use, and then this is the site along Lincoln. This is West Tampa Bay Boulevard, as well as the office use, or the school use further along the street. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Barnes? Councilman
Is that Tampa Bay Elementary?
Yes, I think so. I should know that. I believe you're correct, yes.
Any other questions? petitioner? Well, we have somebody in the audience there. Who is the petitioner?
Good evening. Aaron Mayers, Res by Mez Development LLC. We are a Florida corporation. I am a Tampa homeowner and resident, 719 North Rome Avenue, but also split my time between my office and Texas. Also calling in on the line is the architect on the project, Jay Reynolds, so we'll be touching base with him just shortly. It has been our goal to invest in this community, and we want to invest in areas that might not be seeing the same benefits that other residents in other parts of town are seeing. If you look west several blocks to West Shore, look south to North Hyde Park, where we currently reside, or east several blocks to Tampa Heights, adjacent neighborhoods whose home values have benefited from developers like myself and whose infrastructure has been improved to support that growth. Streets surrounding our parcel we are working to rezone have not seen the same economic benefit or infrastructure improvements. Average home and parcel values are well behind that of some of the adjacent neighborhoods. This is a view of what was 4005 North Lincoln with a rendering of our project. The City Planning Department has already addressed in their report the diversity of the parcels in our immediate area. While many are zoned RS50, they still are home to an elementary school, a women's health center, medical offices. Block to the northwest is a small townhome community, home to many of our neighbors. To rezone our parcel from RS50 and PD to a PD designation to house residential single-family attached homes is very much within the goals on intentional development of this part of the city and fits well within the existing neighborhood. Economic support in this area would provide new housing opportunities for existing Tampa residents or opportunities for new residents, allowing the city to expand its tax base. We hope to be a leader in this part of the community. We hope we can work to develop other properties in this immediate area, but we also hope our investment entices others to follow our lead and join us in investing in this area. The council should know our neighbors at the Optimal Women's Center, which is 3203 West Tampa Bay Boulevard, have expressed their support in writing for our project, as have our neighbors at 4007 North Lincoln Avenue. They've also expressed support for our plan to improve our shared borders for both architectural value and safety. Our eastern border is the Tampa Bay Boulevard Elementary. 3201 West Tampa has been vacant for years and it's been falling apart. It has been neglected. It has been broken into. The front door is currently broken into. And it has been vandalized. This is not safe for any community, certainly not safe for the Tampa Bay Elementary. That is our neighbor to the east. In addition to vandalism, our border between my development and the school has sick trees growing through rusty chain link fence, broken wood fencing, falling trees that nobody is caring for, and it is dangerous to our children. By approving our rezoning request and allowing our development to move forward, we will improve the surrounding properties as well. But specifically, we will make the area safer for the elementary school students. We have had several very positive conversations with representatives specifically from the school district and continue to work with them towards making sure this project can be carefully developed with the safety of students in mind, and that the end result is beneficial to the school and the community in general. I've been fortunate to be working with OJMR, a talented architecture group with an innovative eye, focused on sustainability and staying green, and so I will turn the rest of the presentation over to Jay Reynolds.
If I may ask, where's that building at?
This building?
Yes.
That is a view across 3201 West Tampa. The school parking lot is to the right, and that is the rendering of our property.
Oh, that's the rendering.
So this would be a direct rendering, sir, from
No.
3201?
Yeah, the reason I asked was I saw that, I said, I never seen that building there.
So I was
had me
speaking to
confused, and
that
I
as
lived
I was
there.
speaking to the view from the elementary and how we're hoping to improve that.
I was pinching myself, I said, I never seen that building there.
Give it time, give it time.
Not yet.
And I turn it over to Jay. I'll be sharing some slides as he talks, if that's all right.
Excuse me, gentlemen, you're online. Could you please raise your right hand to be sworn in?
Do you swear or affirm you would tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank
Jay
you, John.
Reynolds here, architect. Thank you, Aaron, and we appreciate saying a couple points just to further our consideration here. For one, we wanted to talk about the difficult in the tight site and the uniqueness, as Annie had mentioned as well, and stormwater. We're working currently with engineering, and we're going to be retaining all that water on site. We have enough of a driveway now that we can actually take most of that, and if not all, into that concrete vault, which we and Aaron's showing you on the drawing. We're excited about the opportunity to develop this neighborhood, and as I think Annie touched on as well, the density that we're requesting is far less than what we could put on. So we think in an urban level and contextually in the neighborhood, it's nice. So we got dealing with some tight issues on the site. And the other one we wanted to mention too is the height of the building. So we're currently in a 35-foot height limit. We are at 32, but we have bulkheads. We have a three-level and a dual-level rooftop deck that were proposed. And so we have a bulkhead, and the bulkhead is actually access up to these roof decks, and also to get vertical shafts down for HVAC down to the unit. But these will comprise of 5.4%, and the massing is actually in the middle part of the building. So we feel that we've taken great care, and the neighbors to the east, the school, and also to the residential, which, as you can see on the site plan, the 7-unit and the 3 units are stepped and proposed to be at a much denser, density along and height along the east property line. So those are the two areas that I wanted to talk about and touch on, and we're certainly excited to be making a mark in the city of Tampa, and look for other opportunities as we open it up for any questions.
Yes. They need a site plan, yes.
Yeah, unfortunately, while you're speaking, for some reason, they weren't showing the images on the Elmo. So if you could just show so that the public
Okay.
can see what we've seen, or we haven't, yeah, if you could just
your
thank
site
you.
plan, please.
Yeah.
Aaron, yeah.
I'm gonna just
So-
walk you through. Jay, tell me what you want to see, and I'll pop them up there.
I really can't, I can only see ourselves, so I really can't see the.
This is the site
presentation.
plan, if you want to just sort of talk through that, and then
Yeah,
show
so
the
that
vault.
was- You see it, right, that's fine, so I can memorize that. Yeah, so there's a box in the middle, kind of long linear in the driveway, and this is what I was talking about the storm retention and how we're solving that on the site and the access in the driveway. And again, you see, if Aaron still has a site plan up, we have the 7 units over to the east side of the property and the 3 units to the back, mitigating the height of the single family, and then of course the commercial building to the west. And then if you want to put up the rendering of the exterior, maybe from the east side, on the school side, we can see the bulkhead and talk about the issue of the height and how we're mitigating the height of the portion of the building that's at 38 feet. And again, the bulkhead is for stairwell access, light access into the floors down below, and also to get vertical shaft for the rooftop AC units on the roof. So those again comprise of 5.4% of the overall roof area. So we've studied and really worked hard on trying to get those internalized so they mitigate the height to the neighbors on the east side of the property.
Was that clear to the question? So 32 feet is actually the height of 90+% of the
Right.
development, and just the conveyance to the roof deck. It's not a living space, but just the bulkhead for the stairwell. We request to be at 38 feet, and again, that's just under 6% of the floor space of the roof level. And he mentioned this was an elevation. I think he mentioned seeing it in rendering form, and you can again just sort of see those sort of popping up in the middle of the project.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much. Any other questions? No? Thank you. Does that conclude your presentation, sir?
It does.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? This is item number 7, RZ 2238. I hear and see no one. Do we have anyone online registered to speak on this item?
Yes, we do.
All right. Go ahead. I see Marta Montero, is that correct?
That's correct.
Is, Marta, if you are on, please turn on your video, your camera, so we can see your face, and we'll swear you in.
It's telling me that my webcam is already showing, but I'm not seeing the option to, hold on. It's telling me only that my webcam is already showing.
Counselor, we cannot see you.
Unfortunately, we can't see you, and we do need to see you in order to take your testimony.
We have to see you visually to be able to take your testimony. Can you please check all the, something was almost happening. Please click on your camera icon. That looks like it's coming up.
Okay. I did click on that.
And something's happening, but we can't see you.
Right. Okay.
Do you have enough light in the room?
I do. I do.
Is your camera being covered by something?
No, it's not. I had it set up already so I could be seen, and I was seeing myself clearly.
Is your camera facing you?
It is. And I did click the video icon. It says people can see you.
Well, we cannot.
But you are not.
We cannot see you, and unless we can see you, we cannot take your testimony, because you need to be sworn in to give testimony.
I understand. Let me try one more time. Okay.
There you go. There you go. Please raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I have something I've written, if I may. Good evening, Chairman Cipro, members of City Council. Thank you for allowing me the time to talk, share my thoughts. My name is Marta Rodriguez Montero. I live at 4021 North Lincoln Avenue. I've been a proud resident of West Tampa since my parents moved there in 1971. I love West Tampa for its history, the warmth of neighbors who take care of each other like family, and certainly for its location that is close to everything. West Tampa is an old neighborhood. Sadly, the original residents are passing away, but new families are now learning how wonderful it is to live in West Tampa. For years now, builders have come to West Tampa, torn down the original homes with their beautiful porches and big lots, and usually build multiple two-story houses squeezed into the land that previously was home to one house. Council members, especially Councilman Maniscalco and Miranda, you are aware of the explosion of development in West Tampa, which I welcome. Unfortunately, the older residents of West Tampa did not know to consider doing what residents of Seminole Heights and Hyde Park did, and demand that new construction maintain the look and feel of original West Tampa neighborhoods. West Tampa is now losing its character. This does not apply to all the new homes being built. Some are being built with porches and curves and warmth, but others that have square look just looks out of place in West Tampa. These 10 new townhouses scheduled to be built on Tampa Bay Boulevard are nice if you're looking for modern styled homes. They are square, they are tall. I understand that neighborhoods change. Change can be good, but I do wish these new townhouses had more of the West Tampa design and feel, so that the new residents could also feel proud of living at West Tampa with its history, warmth, and location. One of my concerns is the impact the new townhouses and additional residents will have on the neighborhood, including traffic on Tampa Bay Boulevard, which is only 2 lanes. And is the primary street for Tampa Bay Boulevard Elementary School. The school is Tampa Bay Boulevard Elementary School, and for all events of Raymond James Stadium. My biggest concern with these 10 townhouses is that in addition to the listed 3-story unit with approximately 2,600 square feet, it also advertises the most unique split-level roof decks for private family gatherings. The townhouses will be towering over and looking directly down at Tampa Bay Boulevard Elementary School. Now my light went off. The private family gatherings will have the opportunity to watch the children at play or just walking on campus. These private family gatherings will also be towering over and looking directly down at the single family homes that are on west side of the property. These 3-story units will look out of place, but I understand the builders want to build more on small spaces they have, so they go up. But what I oppose is these homes going so far up that they're now being able to look down at the children, at my neighbors, and at me. So I oppose the extra height requested and the proposed roof deck for family gatherings. I do welcome all new developers to make our neighborhoods look better. I just don't feel comfortable, and I can tell you that I have spoken with many other neighbors on Lincoln Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. Montero. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again. Out of courtesy, I will give the petitioner an extra 30 seconds in their rebuttal if they so wish.
I do.
Sure. I'll take it. Aaron, do you want to put up the
Yeah, let me just jump in real
site
quick,
plan?
Jay. First of all, I appreciate the neighbors' thoughts. Couple of things with regards to traffic on Tampa Bay Boulevard, being that we are approximately a half-mile east of Raymond James Stadium. I think the ability of cars to come and go has already been designed for 80,000 people. The additional 10 additional homes where there are currently 2 properties, I don't think is going to make a difference. As far as the overhangs of the roof decks, they do not look out on the school. If she had looked at the site plan, they actually look onto the interior, the courtyard of the property. And then with regards to fitting into the neighborhood, no, we do not have cars parked on the grass driveways, and no, we do have sidewalks. So I think a lot of the improvements that we're trying to bring to the neighborhood are not arbitrary, and in fact, I do think it does fit into the culture as well as to the design of the neighborhood.
Anything else in your rebuttal?
That's it. Jay, anything?
No, I think I've covered it. It's fine.
We're good. Any
Before
questions?
we proceed to close, is there any comments or any question from council members? Councilman Miranda.
No, I'm not going to say anything regarding the zoning, but I think the item that was said about parking cars on the grass is not warranted. It's not part of your presentation. I take that as offense to West Tampa. I'm not giving you anything but good advice.
Move to close?
Motion to close by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goos. All in favor?
Aye.
Councilman Goos.
File number REZ-22-38. Ordinance being presented for first reading consideration. In order to rezoning property in the general vicinity of 3201 West Tampa Bay Boulevard and 4005 North Lincoln Avenue in the city of Tampa, Florida, and more particularly described in Section 1 from zoning district classifications RS50 residential single family and PD plan development to PD plan development residential single family attached, providing an effective date.
Councilman Miranda, did you second that?
I haven't said a word.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion made by Councilman Goos, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. Roll call vote.
Carlson,
Yes.
Goods,
Yes.
Vieira, Maniscalco,
No.
Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried with Vieira being absent at vote, Maniscalco voting no. Second reading and adoption will be held on August 25th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 8, file number REZ 22-40.
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. Item number 8 is REZ 2240. The subject property is located at 110 South Boulevard. The request is to rezone the property from office professional to planned development for residential multifamily, strip shopping center retail, including bank drive-in with office uses. I'm available, let me turn over to Planning Commission. After their presentation, I'll move mine.
Danny Collins, again with your Planning Commission staff. I've been sworn in. Our last case is within the Central Tampa Planning District, and more specifically, it's within the Hyde Park, Spanish Creek neighborhood. The subject site is also within the CBD peripheral boundaries, and it's also within the Hyde Park National Historic District. Oops. Transit service is provided approximately 250 feet east of the subject site, along West Cleveland Street. West Cleveland Street is served by Heart Route 19, connecting the subject site to downtown Tampa, Tampa General Hospital, and Britton Plaza. Snow Park is the closest public recreation facility, being located approximately 0.1 miles to the northeast of the subject site. The subject site is within evacuation zones B and C. Here is an aerial map of the subject site and the surrounding properties. You'll see the subject site just on the northeast corner of West Cleveland Street and South Boulevard. It's just north of the Selman Expressway. Just north of the subject site is the University of Tampa's campus. The surrounding area contains a mixture of uses. West Kennedy Boulevard is 1 block north of the site, which contains predominantly non-residential uses. And then there are some residential uses within a couple blocks west of the subject site. And like I said, it's just north of the Selman Expressway. Here is the adopted future land use map. The entire subject site is within the regional mixed use 100 future land use designation. This designation allows for development up to 3.5 FAR or 100 dwelling units per acre. As I noted earlier, the site is within the CBD periphery, which allows additional density on the subject site through a bonus. With the CBD bonus, the subject site can be considered for up to 200 dwelling units per acre or 7.0 FAR. That of course is the maximum that it would allow. The RMU 100 surrounds the subject site on all sides. Just north of the subject site along Kennedy Boulevard, on the north side, our parcel is recognized under the UMU 60 future land use designation. 1 block west of the subject site, our parcel is recognized under the residential 35 future land use designation. And then about a half block south of the subject site is land recognized under the community mixed use 35 future land use designation. The PD proposes just under 279,000 square feet of mixed use development at an overall FAR of 6.34. The applicant is utilizing the CBD periphery bonus to achieve additional intensity on the subject site. The Planning Commission staff reviewed the request and found it comparable and compatible with the surrounding area. Surrounding area contains a range of building heights. There are several mid-rise existing buildings that were previously approved in the vicinity of the subject site, as well as a 26-story mixed-use building 2 blocks east of the subject site at the intersection of West Cleveland Street and South Cedar Avenue. The PD proposes a 23-story structure, which is comparable and within the ranges of surrounding towers in the area. The subject site is within a mixed-use corridor as defined in the comprehensive plan. The request addresses many of the mixed-use corridor policies by providing internal pedestrian connections and orienting the entrances to the public rights-of-way. The proposed 192 dwelling units will also provide additional housing opportunities for Tampa's growing population in an area of the city where land is presently underutilized. The new housing opportunities would also be adjacent to 2 transit stops within a half a mile of the central business district and less than 400 feet south of the University of Tampa. In conclusion, the request will promote a residential development pattern consistent with the compact city form strategy, with increased availability of housing at densities that promote walking and transit use near employment centers, residential services, and amenities. Furthermore, the request is consistent with the density anticipated under the RMU 100 through the CBD periphery bonus. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Collins?
Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. REZ 2240 is request to rezone property at 110 South Boulevard from office professional to planned development for residential multifamily strips, shopping center, retail, including a bank drive-in. The applicant is requesting 6 waivers associated with this request. The subject property contains approximately 0.95 acres, is currently developed with the bank drive-in. It's located on the northeast corner of the intersection of West Cleveland Street and South Boulevard. And it's shown here in red. The proposed project is for residential multifamily, so 192 units, approximately 275,819 square feet, and 2,996 square feet of strip shopping center retail, including bank drive-in uses. However, to be noted that when reviewing the revised site plan that was provided, or prior to this hearing, there is a bonus provision agreement that is associated with this request. Those numbers, I know the applicant will update. They will be reduced in order to meet that 6.34 FAR. The applicant, in accordance with section 27-140, the applicant will provide additional amenities that we apply to a capital improvement plan project or similar projects within the area. Staff reviewed section 27-136. Although the massing and the height wasn't necessarily, it was compatible with the area, the current development in the area. The issue was the number of waivers requested, especially in referencing natural resources and transportation-related waivers. So let me show you the site plan that was provided. This is the site, and it's showing some of the queuing for the bank drive-in. And I'm sure the applicant will show some of the elevations. So this is just the elevation provided. This is the subject site as it is today. This is looking northeast from the site. This is directly behind the site on the east side. And this is facing, or this is along South Boulevard, facing east. And shown here is construction and buildings in the downtown vicinity. And then directly south is the Selman Expressway. Additionally, I know based upon the square footage that the waiver regarding the parking will be amended as well. So it'll be a 47% reduction, not a 45% reduction. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Barnes? Thank you. Petitioner?
Good evening, Council. Tyler Hudson, 400 North Ashley Drive. If we could queue up the PowerPoint. Great. So with me here this evening are Brad Caldwell and Greg Mender with Devon and In-Town Group, respectively, who are the developers of this project. Also, Addie Clark, a civil engineer with my law firm, is here. And additionally, Ricky Paterica, a certified master arborist who assisted on this project. Virtually are many representatives from Stantec and the design firm, if there are any questions regarding that. Let's jump in. You see a couple of maps of where the location is. I think it might be helpful to actually zoom out a bit. The yellow line that you see is the central business district periphery. The red star is the location of the site. For something that's as impactful, the CBD periphery isn't discussed very much in the zoning code or in the comprehensive plan, but as Danny alluded to, it allows you to actually double the amount of intensity on a site. So that's pretty significant, and it's like for fairly obvious reasons because of the proximity to downtown, to the CBD, where density is functionally unlimited, limited only by the FAA. So areas like Channel District, portions of Ybor City, Encore, Southern Tampa Heights, those are all in the same density allotment as this site. I think that's important to bear in mind when we talk a little bit about more some of the site and some of its inconsistencies. Just a hair under an acre, we are 1 block south of the UT campus, and I think it's worth noting that we are not in a CRA, we are not in an overlay district, nor are we in a local historic district. This is, I think the site is literally the northernmost piece of the national Hyde Park Historic District, but for the purposes this evening, that is not very relevant. Not to get anyone too dizzy, now when you're looking up, you're looking east, and I think this is helpful to show just how close the site is to the University of Tampa, and as I'll talk about in a little bit, this is a project designed and will be marketed towards University of Tampa students. As you can see, it's I think 0.3 miles, it's really just 1 block south. This is actually pretty helpful to see the shape of the site. It's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's actually both mashed together, which creates a little bit of an issue in the site design, which I'll talk about in a little bit. This is a rendering of the proposed site showing the bank OZK at the bottom. That is where the 2,800 square feet of retail comes from. There are going to be 182 dwelling units. That's the number, 182. The site plan in front of you has a slightly larger number, but 182 is what will be corrected between first and second reading. I also want to make clear in the interest of transparency that this is a private development. This is not affiliated with the University of Tampa, though that is certainly who it will be marketed towards. This is a completely private student housing development. And as Andy alluded to, we are paying a $2.7 million bonus payment. There really weren't any amenities or projects at the immediate site that the bonus could fund, so the funds will go to the city of Tampa, and they're tentatively earmarked for a couple of complete streets projects throughout the city, which $2.7 million is a fairly significant number for complete streets. I'd like to walk the site, although I think it might be easier if I could switch to the Elmo briefly, just to walk through how the site's actually going to function. Can you all see? Great. So up is north. This is Fielding. So as you come down Fielding, this is how you're going to, from a vehicular perspective, enter the site. You're going to go through here, or you can keep going down. This cutout parcel we do not own. That's the Souders law firm. I believe it's 1-800-HOG Law is what it's best known by, but we do not own that parcel. That's a cutout here. So you'll come around. You have another opportunity to get into the site, albeit here it's really just for the bank. So you can drive in here to a couple of parking spaces. More importantly, though, this is a drive-through that cuts all the way through the site, and you can exit only here. One of the most interesting features, I think, about this project that's been unusual for Tampa and other maybe larger, older cities, it's common, is it does have a pedestrian mews, M-E-W-S. This cuts through the entire site. That's going to be an open-air through connection that will allow people to get from either side out of the building to Fielding if they want to access campus that way, or through Boulevard if they want to go that way. And I'll explain in a little bit of the reasoning for that. I have a rendering to show you, but just so we're clear, that is a pedestrian, sort of essentially an enclosed, really kind of beautified sidewalk that we think is going to be a pretty popular feature of the development. We could switch back to the PowerPoint. So in terms of the existing conditions, Andy walked through that. It's a bank OZK. It's going to be a bank OZK again, albeit with the student housing complex on top of it. In terms of the student housing need, there is an acute, there's acute housing shortage that stretches across a lot of elements of the city, and this council is more familiar with that than anyone. But in terms of focusing just on students in the University of Tampa student population, my client commissioned a private market study to look at the housing student demand and the supply. It's fairly straightforward math. Can't see it because of the closed captioning, but we know exactly what the undergraduate student population is for the University of Tampa. Of 11,600 full-time students, 10,200. We know that the University of Tampa is able to provide 5,000 beds on site. We know that there are 1,200 beds for off-campus housing, and that includes, and don't want to be overly presumptuous, that includes this project, that includes some other projects that council has approved recently that aren't even under construction yet. That still leaves a deficit of 4,000 beds, and we think a project like this is going to be able to consolidate a decent amount of the student population this close to campus, in this much of a walkable environment where you can walk to a grocery store is a great win for the neighborhood and a great win for the university community. Let's talk through staff support. As Danny alluded to, we do have a consistency finding from the Planning Commission, which is obviously very important. That's the cornerstone from a legal perspective of a sound zoning decision. And several reviewing departments from the city of Tampa did find this consistent. Like with any project that I've got the pleasure of bringing before this council that's in the CBD periphery, it is trying to utilize the density that is afforded by that accommodation. It's very difficult to adhere to every single element of the zoning code. And so we have some waivers. In your record, you have a fairly substantial waiver justification memo, as well as a memo outlining why we believe we've complied with the PD purpose provisions in section 27-136, but if you'll indulge me, I'd like to walk through those waivers right now. First is buffering. So in the code, parking lots are referred to as vehicular use areas for some reason, and they have their own separate buffers. For this particular type of parking lot, you have to have an 8-foot space between the parking lot and the street. In this circumstance, we're asking for 5 feet, and a lot of the waivers that we are seeking are driven by the fact that we have that cut through the building. That instead of a single mass, there is a cut through that's going to require pushing the northern piece up, southern piece down. Second is setback. This is a little bit of an unusual waiver. Typically, you don't see waivers for setbacks in PDs because one of the main reasons to do a PD is honestly to establish your own setbacks and not deal with the setbacks in the standard zoning districts. But the code contains some provisions about certain streets in Tampa that are considered special. Cleveland is one of them, and it requires a 42-foot setback from the center line of Cleveland to the property. We are only able to accommodate 36, which we think for a dense urban environment like this is entirely appropriate. Candidly, those significant setback requirements are really a bit inconsistent with some of the provisions of the comprehensive plan that talk about street-facing orientation, pedestrian orientation, and things like that. This is an example. This is a rendering of the muse that we discussed, what that cut through will look like. One of the goals here is to avoid too much pedestrian traffic on Cleveland, which though it has a speed limit of 35, not all citizens of Tampa honor that at all times. And it can be a bit of a dangerous road for UT students, or not UT students, for anyone to walk. So that's part of the idea of trying to bring that pedestrian east-west traffic into an internal, a little bit of a safer environment. Trees, we do have one tree waiver, and that is to remove a single non-hazardous grand tree. It is located towards the front of the site, and by applying the protected radius of that tree to the site, after 2 reasonable reconfiguration attempts, we were not able to preserve it. Ricky Paderek is here to discuss if you have any questions about what those reasonable reconfiguration attempts looked like. But the short answer is it would have required an exceptionally tall building that would have been probably far out of character, and it also limited our ability to accommodate that muse that I talked about that cuts through the site. I would note that, and we're not doing this by enormous amounts, but we are exceeding the parking lot green space requirement slightly, as well as the general green space requirement. And I'd like to actually make one more note on the trees. What you're seeing on site is the proposal. We're proposing to plant, I believe it's 19 canopy trees. Canopy trees are not palm trees. I know sometimes there's not a lot of enthusiasm for replanting palm trees because they don't provide much shade. So we are doing the best we can to, in light of the fact that we are removing one grand tree, replant a significant number so that Boulevard in particular and Fielding, to the extent of our frontage there on the right side, get some nice kind of coverage for the urban canopy that we know Tampa appreciates. Loading, I don't think I've ever brought to this council a PD that does not have a loading berth, and this is perhaps one of the best justifications I've seen. These units are all going to be furnished. There's really no circumstance under which a large moving truck is going to come into this site. Loading berths have an enormous opportunity cost, particularly of the size that this code requires, of being 12 by 60. So we are going to provide one 12 by 30 loading berth, and we are very confident that that is going to be adequate to serve this building. The most common deliveries that we anticipate getting, in which Greg, who developed the Henry downtown, can attest, is Uber Eats. And they will not be using any of the loading berths. We also need the waiver for the one continuous maneuver. The way loading is going to work is you're going to come south on Fielding past the access point, and a truck would theoretically back in and back out, back in and then pull out frontwards. But we do not anticipate really any loading, just given the nature of this use and the fact that these units are furnished. On parking, before we talk about the reduction, I think it's helpful to talk a little bit about the actual requirement. So if this exact same project were lifted up and moved 5 blocks east across the river into downtown, it would have to have 188 parking spaces. If it was in Ybor City, or if it was in the Channel District, which is likewise in the CBD periphery, it would be required to have 191 spaces. But due to the circumstances of its location, it is required to have 395 parking spaces. For a project that is going to be designed for and marketed to students who attend a university 1 block north, we think parking 395 would be a gross amount of overparking. So we are proposing 210 spaces, 12 of which would go to the retail, the bank that's going to remain on site, and the remainder of which would serve the student population. As Greg can discuss in a little bit, based on his experience developing private student housing projects in Tampa for UT students, parking, they've had a hard time filling parking that they have at the Henry, which is downtown and several blocks away, not 1 block away like this project. Sorry, I think the parking we've established, I'd like to use the remaining time I have for Greg to come up and talk a little bit about his experience.
Thanks, Tyler. Good evening, City Council. My name is Greg Minder, 2915 West Bay Court Avenue, and I have been sworn. I've had the opportunity to develop multiple projects in the city of Tampa, and I'm developing multiple projects now with my partners, Development Ventures Group. We most recently developed the Henry on the north end of downtown, but also Sky Point, Element, 500 Harbor Island, multiple other land use changes in the area. Learned a lot about a couple different aspects of design that we feel really important to projects. As the area becomes more and more pedestrian friendly, we wanted to focus our project on the pedestrian and not necessarily on vehicles, especially given the fact that our primary student population in the area is more adept to using pedestrian traffic, foot traffic, Lime scooters, bicycles, et cetera, instead of their vehicles to commute to and from the campus. As Tyler mentioned, we finished the Henry just over a year ago. And that project, we built approximately 300 parking spaces for the student population in that building of 188 apartments. We've only been able to lease about 2/3 of those parking spaces, somewhere between 2/3 and 3/4. It represents about 1.18 parking spaces per unit in that building of actually occupied parking. What we built or designed to build in this building would be approximately 1.15 parking spaces for every unit. Very similar in ratio, but slightly less and a much closer project to campus. Because of that, we think that that does justify a little bit more of why we're making the parking, requesting the parking waiver. It's based on experience and actual demand rather than just trying to gauge the market or focus group the market. We actually have experience in doing it. We run a shuttle from that property. This property here won't use a shuttle or need a shuttle because of its proximity. It would actually take longer to drive to campus than it would to walk, right? So that's another reason for that justification. Some of the design elements that Tyler mentioned were the pedestrian access to and through the block itself, but also we've developed or designed into our project and development a front porch that really mimics the character of Hyde Park and brings in an opportunity for students to meet and greet their friends and visitors to the building at the front porch of the building instead of just a set of doors that empty out directly onto the street. That's important for us because we felt like that was a way of warming up the building and giving an opportunity for the building to face the street with some active uses when we're kind of limited in the amount of retail storefront that really is available to us. We have a bank branch that's occupying the southwest corner of the property, but Fielding doesn't represent much of an opportunity for retail or active storefront use. The balance of the space along Boulevard was necessary for accessing the building, both from a building services standpoint and also for the pedestrian. So once we designed all that into the project, we were kind of limited. Lastly, I'll let you know that we've got a lot of experience in developing in core downtown and periphery areas of downtown like Harbor Island. Happy to answer any questions you have regarding the project. We feel very confident this will serve the community very well. We know that there's tremendous demand. And one of the other comments I wanted to quickly make is we've watched the area around here continue to grow in market rate demand while the student population continues to get squeezed out. We've figured that out, and it's one of the reasons why consolidated upscale student housing development is necessary. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hurtak.
I had a question. I'm fine with the parking density. My concern is with the sidewalks. So if you could explain the width of the sidewalks on both Cleveland and North Boulevard?
The sidewalk along Boulevard, because we don't, actually aren't redeveloping the entire block, it's consistent with the existing sidewalks there. And again, we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to meet the street with that front porch. That piece itself kind of extends the sidewalk in a lot of ways. Instead of doing it at grade, which we could have done, we elevated it slightly, like the front porch is at Hyde Park, giving it a little bit more character and a little bit of a space that felt separated from the street. Now, we could have actually put those all at grade, but I thought that would have been missing a lot of that character and opportunity for uniqueness for this project. So based on the fact that south of here really is the Crosstown Expressway in Cleveland, didn't feel like beyond our front door we were going to increase the amount of pedestrian traffic south. So that's one of the reasons why we focused that from the middle of the building, kind of where the Muse punches through the building itself, north as being that space that's kind of nested for our student population.
But do you have actual numbers?
I do. I have to, because I'm blind now, I have to read my my site plan. I believe our scale is approximately, oh, thank you. 6 and 5. Yeah, we're 6 feet. 6 foot wide sidewalk with a landscape element along Boulevard, and on the Cleveland side, because that's a very heavy vehicular roadway, we're 5 feet. But again, there's a small pedestrian or a landscape zone between there and the street.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilman Carlson.
Mr. Mender, welcome. I don't think we've seen you in 3 years here. Thank you for your.
Still doing development, just in front of council.
Thank you for your vision and work you've done in downtown.
Thanks.
So just on the parking point again, so that you both explained a lot about it, but just in case somebody 5 years from now says that stupid city council, why did they approve this? Just one more question about it.
Sure.
You have a lot of experience, obviously, with I mean, you really were the modern catalyst for development of downtown. But when we a year ago or so we started charging for parking in the northern side of downtown, and the people in your 2 buildings that you developed a long time ago, Element and the other one, several folks complained to us and sent us like scathing emails. One of them said, now my girlfriend is going to have to pay for parking. And I asked the people in the city, and they said, well, there's plenty of parking in those buildings. They must not want to pay for it. What's your view on this? I know you mentioned the other project that you've done recently, but is what's the market demand for this, and how would parking work? Is it that 1.5 would be to sign? You can't assign 1.5. You'd have to have a bidding system for it or something like.
Well, it's interesting. It's a very good question, because the target market for a product actually determines a lot of that parking ratio in my mind. And we're watching a population of young adults, 18 to 22 years old, who are the mobility options for them, especially in this location, are numerous. Right? They're much more adept at using Uber and Lyft. They use scooters like crazy. They walk everywhere. They'll bicycle everywhere. They choose to do those kind of things because they actually have a lot of services that are brought to them. Tyler mentioned Uber Eats, other systems of accessing things from the inside-outside approach. When it comes to the actual parking demand, the cost of that parking has an influence over how many people and how many cars end up in a building. And also, again, back to the uses, how much that parking ratio kind of needs to be. If I was going to develop more of a building for sale or a condominium project where I'm selling units, that project is going to demand a little bit of a higher parking ratio, because people like to have their fixed known parking space, and they like to have at least one for themselves and potentially a guest parking space or a second person living or third person living in the unit. Apartments tend to be unassigned, right? So those have a little bit more of an opportunity for float within the parking garage or flexibility within the parking garage, because not everybody's home all the time, and not everybody is in their unit. People on vacation, people traveling for work, whatever the reason is, it kind of brings it down, although you have to allocate the number of spaces based on potential demand. It's kind of like building for the Walmart parking lot at Christmas time, right? You build to kind of the larger number rather than the smaller number. When it comes to the student population, we've really tracked this heavily. We spent a lot of time looking at our actual demand based on, our product at the Henry. And being a little bit further away from campus and operating a shuttle, we expected a lot more students to take us up on the parking opportunity. Campus parking is unavailable for freshmen, and it's fully subscribed for all sophomores through seniors and grad students. Given all that, we expected to have a lot more demand. But what we're hearing, and we're seeing it both in our actual lease numbers and our surveys and our discussions with students, fewer and fewer of them are bringing their cars because the only reason they have them is to go out to the beach. That's really the primary reason that someone brings their car here. In fact, 65% of the student population of the University of Tampa is from the Northeast. It's not driving home. They're typically flying home. So cars themselves really are opportunities to go to farther flung places than they would normally Uber or Lyft or scooter, et cetera. Long story to explain that we spent a lot of time studying various target markets over our development career in downtown. I've watched parking ratios and demand decrease over time. It used to be that our financing groups, banks primarily, would push our parking ratios up as high as they could, believing that we're a driving city, which we are, that we needed higher parking ratios. I think it's a mixed bag when it comes to the feedback that you've gotten, because you hear a vocal minority of people who have a problem with it, and a silent majority that are fine with the parking ratios we have. That would be the kind of the answer I would give. I'd give it a little shorter than me, but that's the full reason why we have a parking ratio we do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the petitioner? I have one. This is 22 floors.
Yes.
With a penthouse.
Yes.
I want to party with that student. I want to party with that student who's going to be able to have a penthouse. Plus parapets. Now, for me personally, to find this consistent and compatible with the surrounding areas, how many other buildings, let's just say half a mile, are 22 stories, with a penthouse? How many other buildings are compatible within, let's just say, half a mile of this?
Well, one of the things the Planning Commission noted was that the area has a lot of structures that are, for lack of a word, inefficient for the use of the land area that they've been designated for in their future use, right? That's why the CBD periphery overlay is on this area and this property. It's to be a transitional space between a suburban area to an urban area. 22 stories relative to downtown is not very tall. 22 stories to the adjacent existing uses is a little bit taller. Altice is not very much shorter to the east. There are approved projects that are much taller in the same zoning district. One just recently traded it and sold the Lafayette Square property, which was approved by this council many years ago. And is, I think they're allowed to go up to, I'm blanking on the numbers. Pretty tall, 350, 400 feet. And then there's another property that sits on Cedar that has been approved for about 25 stories or 26 stories, all in the same zoning district. So there's a little bit of a difference between what's there today, what's allowed by land use, and what's already approved that hasn't necessarily been built. And so when we approached this, we looked at those. We actually had some imagery associated with that. We think it's consistent because by pushing the building a little bit taller and allowing the ground plane to do what it's doing on the site, I think we create a better urban environment for that corner. And I think it's an anchoring corner to the district. I think it sets a tone. I think that the height, if architecturally treated well at the ground floor, is less significant than how that ground floor or that building meets the street. How does it feel and what is the character and use at the ground level? Is it active? Does it do the things I mentioned to you? Is it welcoming? And when I walk around downtown Tampa, I look generally about 25 feet up, and I stop about there. And that's the same kind of character and feel that we envision for this property and that use. So I think we sit somewhere in between the suburban uses and the urban use, and I think that's consistent with the zoning district.
I'm only one vote up here.
Okay.
So you're asking me to think of this as a future land use design as opposed to present land use design?
Future approved land use design, yes.
Thank you. Councilman Miranda.
Well, I hate to go on this piggyback story, but when you speak about that area that you're talking about, the buildings that you're talking about, at the time they were built according to what was needed. Right? So the difference is now the buildings that you need are coming up with a building what you need now. The University of Tampa certainly 60 years ago, 40 years ago, had a population of sometimes, 800, 1,000, 2,000. Now the University of Tampa's population and students is larger than Princeton and Wake Forest. I don't know if you know that, but these are the things that are happening around not only that area, but around most of the areas of downtown. When you go back and analyze downtown 25 years ago, there was 600 people, plus 6 walking the streets, and they were looking to get into the jailhouse where the other 600 were. So now it's grown to over 20,000, 30,000. So the population and the buildings come only if they're needed. Nobody's going to finance a building and build a building if they think they're going to be empty.
That's true.
That's my feeling.
Thank you.
I'm not here to question anyone else's, but I'm just saying you have to be a realist to understand what's happening. And sometimes I make mistakes, and you and I go to the same barber, so I like it. But it happens how it is, and that's what life is all about. I mean, things change. I've changed. I've gotten younger. But these are the things that happen in life, and you have to be cognizant of the fact that around you, you got to realize what's happening to understand what's happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Second.
I got to take public comment.
Thank you.
Sir.
Nope.
Thank you. Sometimes I'm guilty of playing devil's advocate with myself. I hope you understand my.
No, that's fine.
motivation.
Absolutely.
Any comments from the audience concerning this? Ms. Strollmeyer is still not online. Thank you. Moved to close by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Mr. Miranda, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much. Miranda's fine enough with me. You don't have to say anything else. Item number 8, file number REZ 22-40. Move an ordinance being presented for first reading, an ordinance rezoning property at general vicinity.
Excuse me, Councilman Miranda.
I'm so sorry. Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. I just want on the record, and I can give it to legal as well, the updated numbers as part of the revision sheet. I just want it on the record that there's 182 units and 2,871 square feet of the bank for a total square footage of 263,427 square feet for an FAR of 6.34. As well as the revision to the parking. So 395 required to 210 provided. So I just want that clean on the record. I do, and I'll give it.
Just to be on the safe side, shall we open up again for that?
On the safe side, if you would like.
We have a motion to open.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilwoman Hurtak. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Barnes, just for the record, just so everything is clean and above board.
So sorry, Annie Barnes, Development Coordination. I have passed out the updated units, 182, and I can't remember off the top of my head the square footage, but it equals 6.34 FAR to match the BPA provided. And then the reduction, or the updated numbers and reduction in the parking waiver.
When you make your motion, I think you may want to just reference the updated information that was handed out by Ms. Barnes and has been filed with, and been submitted to the clerk. So.
Well, if I have to read this, a parking waiver, I got to read the remainder of the city's 395 spaces. It's here. Not that I want to do that. It has nothing to do with the zoning, but I'll do whatever is needed.
Yeah, I think you just need to move the ordinance and just reference I I guess between first and second reading, those numbers
Correct.
will be updated and revised per the handout that Ms. Barnes just
For the
provided.
revision sheet.
Correct.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Motion closed by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. File number 8, file number REZ 22-40, move orders being presented for first reading consideration. An orders rezoning property general vicinity of 110 South Boulevard in the city of Tampa, Florida, more particularly scrapping section 1 from zoning districts classification OP, office, professional, PD, planned development, residential, multifamily, strip, shopping center, retail, bank, drive-in, providing an effective date, along with the items that Ms. Barnes put in regarding the waivers and regarding the square footage.
The revisions that need to
and
be
the
made
revision
before
sheet
first
that
and second.
she handed out to the council. And that will be addressed between first and second reading and the actual numbers.
Motion made by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Goode,
Yes.
Viera,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Miranda,
Yes.
Hurtak,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
and Citro.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on August 25th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Information and reports. Let's go to Councilman Miranda again.
I skip, sir.
Thank you very much. Councilman Goode. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Yes, our discussion last week where we went in circles over the Ybor magistrate issue. I'm going to make a motion that the Legal Department and Land Development Coordination Staff review Section 27-61 of the code and provide recommendations on how to improve or simplify the various review procedures.
We have a motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Goode. All in favor?
Aye. And I have a second. I want to make a motion requesting that on October, and I don't have a calendar in front of me, so if the clerk has a particular date. Yes. October 6th. I want to make a motion requesting that on October 6th, Development and Growth Management staff and the city's legal department appear before City Council and give an update and status report about file number CM 21-69408, the publicly initiated text amendment to the Good Neighbor Notice requirements that was initiated in June of 2021, and detail where it is in the process and the next steps that need to be taken.
Motion made by Councilwoman Hurtak, seconded by Councilman Goode. All in favor?
Aye. That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Miranda, Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. I have a motion. This is a request by the Planning Commission to set an adoption hearing for TA CPA 22-09 on September 8, 2022 at 5:01 p.m. and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with the form of notice for advertising the public hearings.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Carlson. All in favor?
And second, I have a motion, also a request by the Planning Commission to set an adoption hearing for TACPA 22-10 and TACPA 22-11 on September 22nd, 2022 at 5:01 p.m. and direct the legal department to provide the city clerk with the form of notice for advertising the public hearings.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Michelle, this is for clarification. That's it. Thank you very much.
Councilman Miranda. Vieira, excuse me.
Guido Miranda. Just one, if I may, please. Just something I mentioned earlier today, for the family of the late Judge Robert Foster, just commendation. Second. For his life's work, et cetera.
Motion made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, I wonder if you all would allow us to give a posthumous commendation to Rick Naif and do it in person so that his family could be here. And you all know who he was.
Yes.
He's such a big guy, but a giant in what he contributed to this community and how he changed this community. So I'd like to make that motion. When's the next commendation meeting? So for September 6th, commendation for Rick Nave.
Motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor?
Thank you, that's it.
Did we acknowledge Mr. Tim Burke in the audience? Anybody?
Go ahead.
Anybody? I see him all quiet in the back. It's a special treat.
I'd like to, first off, I was going to write a letter, a request from Program Director of WMNF, Ms. Laura Taylor, is asked to write a letter proposing from the City Council to propose or help propose bringing back Tropical Heat Wave Music Festival to Ybor City. It has not been around for several years. It began in 1981. I would like for this to come from all of City Council, and I'm just looking to see if we're okay with a letter of recommendation from Tampa City Council to bring back Tropical Heat Wave.
I'm not against it, but I gotta find out what the funding mechanism is in case they're looking at funding from us. I don't know.
I cannot believe. I will check with her, just so we'll put that on the back burner right now, but I wanted to get a feel from council.
You know, there's a developer that's been looking, a promoter has been looking to bring that back too.
Yes, and it's been a long time, so.
I don't know if they're part of the same effort or not, so we should just check.
You all right with that, Councilman Goods?
Yeah, that's what, I
Okay.
never heard of that.
You never heard of Tropical Heat Wave?
What?
It's 104, of course. How long you been in Tampa? Councilwoman Hurtak?
I think I can support that as long as we also support bringing back Tropical Heat Wave, the beer. Really good. Only available during that time.
We have a motion. What, is that a motion?
No, it's not a motion. I just wanted to get my feeling out, and I'll bring it back after I get some information for Councilman Miranda next Thursday. But I do want to present a commendation to Cheryl Pullins. Cheryl Pullins has been a pillar in the community for over 20 years, providing coaching, mentoring, and leadership free for women in the Tampa area. She represents the Brown STEM Girl, an organization designed to increase the visibility of women and girls of color in STEM. She has even served as a mentor to a 13-year-old who has made history as the youngest person in the United States ever to be accepted into medical school, and who has, at 12, become the youngest intern ever for NASA. My motion is to present a commendation to Cheryl Pullins for being recognized for a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for her work with Brown STEM Girl organization on September 6th, 2022 at 9 a.m.
We have a motion from Chairman Citro. Do we have a second? Second from Councilmember Goods. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye. Thank you all very much. Motion to receive and file. We got a motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Goods. All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
To that girl